Very good morning to you. Welcome to The Big Issue. The Big Issue is your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. My name is Selom Adunu. As always, the show is live and interactive. You can join the discussion with your messages via our various platforms and our various socials. This morning, we want to look at two key issues which have dominated the week. The first is the political cataclysmic event that has shaken the MPP and to some extent the country. Kyerematen, a founding member of the New Patriotic Party, resigned early this week and formed his own movement, the Movement for Change. He says that he wants to contest the 2024 elections as an independent candidate because he did not think that the processes leading to his party's election of a flag bearer were fair enough. Of course, he did withdraw from that race, and he says he did not see the reason why he should continue being part of a tradition that has lost its values. The question is Kyerematen going to make any impact beyond what other independent candidates and breakaway parties candidates have made in the past? Ghana appears to be clamoring for a third force, but is that in reality? And is Kyerematen the man to lead that third force? What impact is his candidature going to have on the New Patriotic Party and even on the NDC and election 2024? We will look at all of that for you this morning. Also, there's been some issues at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital regarding fees for kidney dialysis. Ordinarily, before an institution and a government agency like the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital increases its fees, there's a process it goes through. Management will have to make a representation to the board. The board will have to consult the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health will have to deal with Parliament and a few other important institutions before such an increment can happen. This time around, just a management decision was taken to increase the cost of dialysis from somewhere around 350 cities to over 700 cities, about 100% increment. And you know, the mother ministry did not know about it. And as we speak, we understand the ministry has summoned the management of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for a meeting. The management has since made a U-turn, but their explanation or justification is that things are expensive and they are unable to meet the basic cost of running the dialysis program or unit. Is the increment justified really? Or is it just the procedure that was problematic? This is our discussion today. We will take a short break, return, and give you some updates, introduce our guests, and then we'll get a discussion underway. Once again, this is a big issue. You are welcome. You're welcome back to The Big Issue. Two issues on the table this morning on your platform for incisive analysis and riveting conversation. One, Kyerematen leaves the MPP, forms his own movement, the Movement for Change. It says Ghana needs a leader and not a political party, and he thinks he's that leader to help Ghana transform and bring Ghana to the promised land. Is that really the case? What must he do? Does he have the capacity really to marshal the forces to move his movement to the Flagstaff House or the Jubilee House? What really does his movement mean for the MPP and even the NDC in election 2024? Does he really want to win to be president? He says so though, or he just wants to cause an upset in the New Patriotic Party so that the breaking the eighth agenda is really broken into pieces. We also look at the matter of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and the dialysis cost matter. The Ministry of Health has summoned the management of that institution for a meeting because they say that the increment, which has since been reversed, was done without the approval of the ministry. What really is the procedure and why did it happen like that this way? Cost of living, cost of consumables and things Korle Bu Teaching Hospital says are high, and that is the justification they provided for the increment. All right, let me provide you some updates before I introduce my guest and kick off the discussion. Now, the former trade minister, Alan Kyerematen, this week announced his decision to break away from the New Patriotic Party and run as an independent candidate in the upcoming 2024 elections. Mr. Kyerematen's decision has sent shockwaves through the political landscape, as he has been a steadfast or a founding member of the New Patriotic Party. According to Alan Kyerematen, he had endured unfair treatment from the NPP for about 15 years now. He also raised concerns about some hostility and brutality towards him and his supporters, despite all the sacrifices that he says is made for the party. There is more in the following report.
You're still live on the Citi newsroom. Former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kyerematen has declared his intention to contest the 2024 elections as an independent candidate. This follows his withdrawal from the...
Under the circumstances and given the context provided, I wish to use this platform to announce that I'm honorably resigning with immediate effect from the New Patriotic Party to contest for the high office of the President of the Republic of Ghana in the 2024 general elections as an independent presidential candidate.
This announcement was, however, met with cheers and joy from members of his team, who arguably were expecting same. But Alan Kyerematen did not miss the opportunity to provide a context for his decision. This was timely, as he has on several occasions been criticized for threatening to leave the party when things do not go his way. Critics usually point to his near resignation in 2007 to ground their point. He, however, explained that the incidents in 2007 that necessitated the decision to resign still persist and forms part of the broad reasons of his resignation from the party.
The divisive and hostile attacks on my person and my supporters remained for several years thereafter and have continued to date. It is common knowledge that any party member who is associated directly or indirectly with Alan Kyerematen is treated with disdain and considered an outcast.
He did not mince words in expressing displeasure about how his sacrifices to the party have not been appreciated.
It is abundantly clear to me that my services and contributions to the party are not appreciated.
His wife, Patricia Christabel Kyerematen, who was elated by the decision taken by her husband, spoke to the press on the possibility of Mr. Kyerematen becoming president in 2024.
You will agree with me that now the signal is clear and it is more than possible that this will happen.
Who is Alan Kyerematen? Tell us about him.
Alan Kyerematen is the good man, he's the honest man, he's the man with vision.
Alan Kyerematen appears to have thoroughly thought the decision through, as he hopes to rally the Ghanaian youth in achieving this.
I will establish and lead a new movement for change in Ghana. The brand logo for the movement is the monarch butterfly, which politically symbolizes change and transformation. In Akan, it is known as Afafanto. The brand motto of the movement is Ghana will rise again, which symbolizes hope for the future of Ghana. The new movement will be led and powered by the youth of Ghana.
The governing New Patriotic Party, in reaction to this decision, has described it as unfortunate. In a statement by the party's General Secretary, the party urged NPP members to remain calm and await an official address by the party.
All right, so you saw Alan Kyerematen in that piece there. Now, the New Patriotic Party has accepted the resignation of the former stalwart of the party. The party, addressing the press, called on party members to desist from attacking Alan Kyerematen following his decision to break away from the party. The leadership of the party also rejected claims that the party has been hijacked by a select few.
The party's constitution further states in Article 1322 that where there is more than one contestant, each delegate will cast his or her vote by secret ballot for one of the contestants. Therefore, the demand by the petitioners for delegates to vote for 5 persons instead of 1 is certainly unconstitutional.
The former Trades and Industry Minister also claimed that his supporters have been victimized and treated as outcasts. The governing party, through its General Secretary, however, says there's no iota of truth in the position taken by Mr. Kyerematen.
In reference to Mr. Kyerematen's concerns, which include allegations of intimidation against his supporters, it is noteworthy that certain government appointees, including cabinet ministers, who openly declared their support for him, are still at post and have never been intimidated.
A leading member of the New Patriotic Party and former member of Parliament for Ablekuma North, Kwame Battles, however, indicated that the decision will end Alan's political career.
I felt sorry for him because he's taking the worst decision he can ever take in his political life.
Why do you say so?
He's finished. As a politician, this is the end for him.
Do you think he's been treated unfairly? He says he's been treated unfairly.
I won't judge, but we have processes within the party for dealing with unfair treatment.
All right, so the New Patriotic Party accepted the resignation of Alan Kyerematen, and the party appears to be moving on. Alan Kyerematen appears to be taking his direction, his own direction also. So we are also here to analyze what has been happening and what will happen, give a prognosis of what will happen in the future in respect of Alan Kyerematen's declaration of intent, the movement for change, his independent candidature, election 2024, etc., etc. To help me do the discussion today, Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Al-Hassan Suhini, Member of Parliament, Tamale North, on the ticket of the NDC, Ebo Bachman, spokesperson, the Alan Kyerematen campaign, Franklin Kujo, President, Imani Africa, and then Sammy Crabbe, a former national vice chair of the MPP. He will be joining us and espousing his views on what has been happening in the New Patriotic Party. So this is our show. Gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. I started with you, Ebo. Some people anticipated this. Others also thought, well, Alan would just swallow the bitter pill, sit aside, may not be very active in the party. But to resign was a bit difficult to take from certain viewpoints, even though it's happened before. And then now he sets up his own movement, not a political party, a movement, because he says Ghana doesn't need a political party, Ghana needs a leader. And given the history of our country and how such candidates, independent candidates, have performed, Alan should be very bold in taking this decision. But we've heard quite a number of things. Bring us up to speed on why Alan Kyerematen, took this decision, leaving the party he helped found and now establishing or setting up his own movement.
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, let me say hi to the monarchs. We refer to ourselves, the members of the movement, as monarchs.
Monarchs?
Yes, because you are using the monarch butterfly.
Okay.
As our...
So monarch as in how? Monarch as in royalty? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
When Mr. Alan Kyerematen spoke at the press conference, he listed a lot of issues that led to the decision that he took to step out of the party and form his own movement to prosecute an agenda that will see to the transformation of Ghana's economy from where we are to another level. Some of the issues are issues that were known already. One particular issue that came up to me recently that really, really shook my heart was the one that happened in 2008, I think. After Mr. Kyerematen conceded victory to Nana Addo at the Legon Congress. According to Mr. Kyerematen, one day he was in his office and he put on his television, and what he saw was shocking. That the candidate then, Nana Addo, was launching his campaign. And the MC of the program said, these are the elders of the party who are here to be part of this program. Mr. Kyerematen is the one who is not here, he has traveled. The man was right there in Ghana.
Really?
Oh, yes. So you can see the genesis.
No, but people have issue with that because in 2008, when the campaign team itself was put together, Kyerematen was a major pillar of that campaign team.
No, that is, so I'm making an argument, I'm advancing the point, that when they were launching the campaign, he was in this country, he was not invited. So that should tell you something.
That they didn't want him in the party, or the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo team didn't want him?
Ordinarily, I wouldn't want to be talking about some of the things that happened in those days. The last time I was here, I told you, in 2007, I supported Mr. Kyerematen. I was one of his key supporters. And I was contesting the Cape Coast seat in 2008. I had contested 4 years earlier with Honorable Christine Churcher. I was the youth organizer of the party. I was a presiding member of the assembly. I was disqualified.
Because you didn't qualify?
I'm coming. And the letter in which, the letter that was given to me after the primary had been conducted. In the letter, it was mentioned that for a reason that cannot be stated in the letter.
That's what the letter said?
Oh, yes, I can't be allowed to contest. And the announcement came on Friday evening. The election was held Sunday morning because they knew I could go to court. These are some of the things that happened.
No, but you know you were disqualified. So your disqualification became public knowledge. So you think the letter came late because they didn't want
of course, this is politics. Why Friday evening and Sunday morning? The point is that some of us, we've gone through this party.
And so your view is that you got disqualified because we don't know the reason. The letter didn't state the reason.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. I was one of the key supporters of Kyerematen. In fact, I was one of his campaign coordinators.
Yeah, but you can't just, connect your disqualification to Kyerematen without more, because maybe you could have done many things as a youth organizer. You could have done many things as a presiding member, for which they could not state. Which they could not state in the letter. So for you connecting your disqualification to Kyerematen without adducing further evidence, that is difficult to take, isn't it?
Let me tell you, to the extent that even regional treasurer was disqualified as well, because it's also one of the...
the regional treasurer was also wanted to contest the same thing.
Yeah.
And he was also not given a reason. And you surmise that it's because you guys were Alan supporters.
A lot of things happened prior to the disqualification. Meetings were held. And I'm telling you, the only reason why some of us were disqualified is the role that we played in Mr. Kyerematen's campaign. And I'm saying that we all joined the party in 1992. I joined the party because I saw the party to be different from NDC at the time, because NDC had just transited from PNDC. And I saw some values that were being espoused by the party. So I joined MPP. And I can tell you, as Mr. Kyerematen himself said, those values cannot be found in the party. Maybe a few of them, but some of the values that attracted some of us to the party, for me, about 90% are no more.
Values of what? Internal democracy, etc.
True internal democracy.
Yeah, but that's still there. You are undergoing an internal democratic process, which will
I'm
culminate
qualifying
in
it a true
your
internal
flag.
democracy. A party that believed in rule of law. In those days, when we set rules, we don't break them. Now we set rules and we break them.
What rules? The rules are clear in your constitution and in your guidelines.
Let me give you a typical example. In fact, because we have moved on, I usually don't like to talk about the things that have occurred. But then, if you check, prior to the superdelegates, the party itself came up with rules and regulations to manage the process. One of them, just one of them, was that no one is allowed to camp delegates. Okay, let me add another one. When there is a tie, should there be a tie? The same process that was used, the same rules and regulations that were used from the beginning will be used to the end of the process. Camping took place. When Mr. Jakun and Mr. Adenimo tied up, and they wanted to break the tie, what happened?
The second highest decision-making body of the party took a decision, which was within the rules.
Which rules?
The constitution, which is supreme to the guidelines.
So why didn't you use the constitution of the party?
Yes, by the constitution.
No, what I'm saying is, why didn't you use from the word go?
No, the constitution is just a framework, and so you need to fill in with.
The guidelines. The point I'm making is that this is not MPP. Some of us joined in 1992. That is why we have moved on. And as I said, I really don't like to talk about some of the things.
Very well.
Because I'm not a member of that
really,
party. Yeah.
You think that Alan Kyerematen was not well treated in the MPP, but he stayed on. He stayed on. And the question people have asked is, if Alan had won the August superdelegates election, given the same factors, would he have left? Even if he placed second, would he have left? He wouldn't, I'm not sure.
No, you see, we need to know who that man is. He didn't withdraw because of the position, because after all, that election was not to determine who was first, second, third, and fourth or fifth. That election is for qualification to the next stage. So he qualified.
Yes, but it tells a lot. If you qualified and you qualified a distant third, when since 2007 you had been second. It tells a lot. It means that you are losing ground. Your popularity in the party was dwindling.
It is not a position. It is how the process was handled. And if you're a principled person and you believe in certain values and you don't see those values being espoused, what do? I usually liken to the situation what happened to a situation where there is one way. You are using a TICO, you have a right of way, and you see an articulated driver driving carelessly towards you from the wrong way, if you like. You have the choice to continue because you have the right of way to insist on your right to go and meet the articulated driver, or you park aside for the articulated driver to go probably to carry on with his suicidal decisions. But the point I'm making is that if you consider what the man went through in MPP, for instance, the Arsenal, how he was treated as a founding member of the party, I believe enough is enough, and we have moved on.
Very well.
As a friend of mine would like to say, he said, today is the tomorrow we spoke of yesterday. We have moved on. We are no more members of the party. So anytime we have opportunity to speak to Ghanaians, we're going to tell Ghanaians how we're going to provide an alternative to NDC and MPP in the next election.
Very well. Haruna, I mean, this is your party. Your party's lost a major pillar. Alan Kyerematen is no mean member. I mean, he's been the guy, I mean, the gentle giant of a kind. And he's left the party. He didn't leave happily. Of course, people don't leave parties happily. But he stated quite a number of reasons. He says that the party today is not the same party he joined many years ago, or the party he helped form many years ago. The party's lost its values. The party's been hijacked by a select few. You will tell me who those select few are, you know, and the party is no more properly democratic. I mean, they said a number of things, and that is being a victim of what he called the anti-Kufuor sentiment in the party. A number of other things which are not very complimentary to your party. You have accepted the resignation, and it appears you are also moving on. This obviously will affect your party's chances in 2024.
Thank you very much. I would like to say good morning to our cherished viewers, and good morning to my colleagues on this platform. I want to believe that by the time we go to the elections, Mr. Bachman will move from the monarch back to the biggest elephant. The biggest animal in the bush, that is elephants. That is what I believe, because blood is always thicker than water. Yes, certainly the MPP is not moved by what is happening currently. We have indeed officially accepted Mr. Alan's resignation, and we acknowledged his contribution to the new patriotic party. We also disagree with a number of issues that is raised by Mr. Alan Kyerematen, and my brother, Mr. Bachman, has said that one of the values that has broken, that they don't more believe in, is because there is no true internal democracy. That is not true. MPP has always been a center-right political party, a conservative party, and we believe in democracy. We believe in internal, we believe in context, we believe in leadership, we believe in religion, we believe in the rule of law, and this has always been a factor that drives the new patriotic party. There is always true internal democracy. You take the context of my boss. At a point in time, if we were to behave like others, I think JFK should have left the race. Yes, so we moved on, we went ahead, and we won the elections. So we believe that for internal democracy, the MPP is the strongest party that believes in internal democracy. In terms of the rules that he has mentioned, he talked about a rule that was broken, and I don't think that there was any rule that was taken away from. All the rules were applied to the end of the elections. And
but for example, if you said that there was a tie, the same process would be used.
The same rule. When you go to Rule 25, it did not talk about who was going to conduct the election. So if you see those people who were to go for the elections, the new rules now for the November 4th indicate who will go. So the party had to refer back to the Constitution and use Article 10(3) of the party's Constitution.
Which says what?
Which says that Article 10(3) of the party's Constitution was very specific about National Council, that there would be a National Council. And that National Council, that there shall be a National Council which subject to the decisions of the National Annual Delegates Conference. You know, the National Annual Delegates Conference is the body that is that takes decisions on amendments of Constitution. So if you go and look at Article 13, Article 13(9), it says that where there are more than 5 contestants, so in this case, there were 10. We did an election, we had 6, because 2 of the contestants had tied. So it says that for nomination as the party's presidential candidate, a special electoral college shall cast their vote by secret ballot for the first 5 contestants to be shortlisted. Yeah, so in this particular statement, this particular provision did not make room for when there is a tie. So National Council, that seizes the opportunity and power in the Constitution, in Article 13(1) of the MPP's Constitution, that has the right to conduct elections or supervise elections for presidential elections in the party, set up a committee called the Presidential Elections Committee. The Presidential Elections Committee goes to set a rules, and then they engage the stakeholders who are involved in the contest. They came out with the rules, but there was still a lacuna as to who goes for the second. Then the parties went and took the decision to use Article 10(3), which I was reading, and says that, subject to the decision of the National Annual Delegates Conference, shall direct the affairs of the party in between meetings of the National Annual Delegates Conference. Shall direct in between meetings.
That's a very broad. That's a very broad ambit.
It means that
fine.
This is a matter that would have go to the National Annual Delegates Conference. But the National Council seizes the opportunity, and if you allow me, it says that in between, for this purpose, may give such directive to the national chairperson as may be considered necessary for the well-being of the party. So at that particular point,
so that's very broad.
Yes.
The point I'm making is that the Electoral College to get the 5 people didn't finish its work. The Electoral College hadn't done its work. So that Electoral College was still relevant.
The Electoral College was to select 5.
Yeah, did it select 5?
But
so it doesn't finish it.
But the same provision that gave room for the Electoral College did not give room for breaking of a tie.
No, yes. But why do you break the tie? You break the tie because you want to get 5 people.
Yeah, but the Constitution did not envisage that.
Yes.
You agree.
But we need 5 people.
Yeah, we need 5 people. But the Constitution did not envisage that.
So the same college should get it. The college's mandate was to get 5 people.
The Elections Committee reported back to the National Council.
Yes, but they've not finished their work.
They did not finish. This was where they are. And this is the stumbling block. They gave 3 different scenarios to the National Council. The director for the constitutional affairs of the party, legal affairs, did present a 3-page paper on that particular instance. And then the National Council took a decision, which that body has the power to take a decision. So they took a decision to vary and says the National Council should go ahead to break the tie. So one of them who was involved did not resign, decided to withdraw from the race.
Because he didn't find that to...
Yes, he made his point, but the party again responded to the fact because he was a member of the National Council.
The party talked about logistics, etc. But the party should have anticipated a situation like this. Some of us even anticipated it.
Even the National Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, had those particular loopholes. We agree that the Constitution should have anticipated that. So this is a matter that the National Annual Delegates Conference will be looking at. And members of the party who wish that some of these things should be addressed will petition the party or write
So Alan says he raised a number of issues.
Yes.
Those issues were not addressed.
In terms of process, the process was the most cleanest process. Every stakeholder was given the opportunity to meet with the elections committee, including Mr. Kojo Alan Kyerematen. He had made his proposals in terms of even the number of delegates to the elections. He pointed to some other issues which were being addressed. None of the processes leading to the elections was tampered with. None of the processes were tampered with. Whilst we agree with him that he wants to go, we are not going to attack him. We are not going to insult him. We are going to speak the issues that he has raised that cannot stand the test of time within the party's constitution.
Some of your people are attacking him, that he has no basis and all of that. You know,
I don't think maybe it's based on the issue they are talking about. We are saying the General Secretary has made it clear.
If you discredit him, you will spill the beans.
It is also said that when he was resigning, he did not inform the party. Some people have questioned why there's no such a procedure in the party's constitution. Mr. Alan Kyerematen came on 2 strands. One was to resign, and then 2 to go independent. And if you look at the party's constitution, Article 3(6) of the party's constitution, which is very clear on this matter, which is on resignation of a member. And I read, 1, a member shall cease to be a member by writing and signing a letter addressed to his or her constituency chairperson, declaring his or her intention to cease to be a member and forthwith surrender his or her membership card. When a member wants to resign, this is the procedure that is put in the party's not even to the general secretary, but addressed to the constituency chairman. This is one of the strands because he said he was resigning. Then the second one was Article 3(9). That is forfeiture of membership. A member of a party who stands as independent candidate against the officially elected member of a member of the party, or who joins or declares his or her support for another political party or for an independent candidate when the party has sponsored a candidate in a general or by-elections, automatically forfeit his or her membership of the party. So in this case, we have not elected or we have not selected a presidential candidate yet, but he had raised a decision to go independent. So in this case, he has properly appeared to use the Article 3(9) of the party's constitution. So on that basis, he has forfeited his membership as a member
so you guys
of the New
call
Patriotic
it
Party.
Resignation. He didn't resign, he forfeited his membership.
He forfeited his membership because he has not properly resigned before the party's constitution, what it says. But he has rather used Article 3(9) of the party's constitution. So the party has accepted, and that's why the General Secretary has said that they are very surprised by the mood he decided to resign from the party. And the party has also went ahead to respond to a number of issues that was raised by Mr. Alan Kyerematen in terms of, he said that they demanded some of the aspirants, that is 9 of them had demanded that the venue for the elections be determined and then be sent to one centralized place, and the party did not agree. The party did not agree on point of law. The party did not just say that, no, we are not going to agree to the proposal, even if all the 10 people who were contestant had petitioned the National Council to decide venue for the elections, that wouldn't have hold water. The National Council would have still go ahead and take the decision. With your permission, if I may read, to justify the point that the National Council did no wrong. When you go to Article 13, election of presidential candidate, 1, Article 13(1), you look at the elections of the party's presidential candidate shall be held not later than 24 months from the date of the national election. The date and venue for the elections shall be decided by the National Council. So this was a decision of National Council, and that was why they petitioned the steering committee. The steering committee decided to put it on the agenda for discussion for National Council, because National Council is the only body that is supposed to discuss presidential elections and determine the date. The National Council decided otherwise from what they thought. Secondly, he said that the 5 of them, the 9 of them, had come together to decide that, again, that the elections be held, when the elections are ongoing, when you go to vote, you need to go and vote for 5 people so that you go. And as a result of the decision of National Council, it is unconstitutional. That is not true. If you go to read the party's constitution very clearly, Article 13(2), Article 13(2)(2), it says, where there is more than one contestant, each delegate will cast his or her vote by secret ballot for one of the contestants. So this is very clear. It has settled the matter. So there is nothing in the Constitution that is unconstitutional, that stands to the firm or the decision that is taken by Mr. Alan Kyerematen. So all the decisions that has been taken are on point of law.
Very well.
Thirdly, he talked about hijack.
Okay, no, the hijack is so big, so we'll deal with that soon. Let me speak to Sammy Crabbe. Sammy Crabbe is I don't know his status really. Sammy, forgive me, but because we know that you were in some tussle with the NPP. Welcome to the program, and we're happy to have you. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Hello, Sammy Crabbe.
Yeah, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. It's been a while. Happy you joined us today. But can you clarify for us, are you still a member of the NPP? What is your status in the party as we speak?
I contested the national chairmanship last year. I voted during the special delegates.
Oh, you did?
Election. Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's good to know. What's your view on what has been happening the whole of this week? Alan Kyerematen, subsequent to his withdrawal from the race, now resigned from the party. I'm just hearing that he did not resign properly from the Deputy General Secretary, but we'll deal with that. He resigned from the party, now formed his own movement to run the 2024 elections as an independent candidate. As a former national executive, of course, at some point you were also at variance with the party on some issues. What's your thinking around all that has been happening?
Well, thank you very much. You know, Alan actually appointed me as the vice chairman of the advisory board and gave me responsibilities of restructuring the Greater Accra operations team.
For this election?
Yes.
I see.
This election, yes. So I held that position for Alan. I wish Alan well. I disagree with what he's decided to do. There are issues in the party. I mean, nobody can sit there and say that there are no issues in the party. There are always issues everywhere, actually. And but I have always believed that it would be better for you to stay in and slug it out than to be outside of the party to slug it out. So I would wish Mr. Alan Kyerematen well in his next stage of politics. I don't think he's finished in politics. As for politics, you can only do politics through a political party, you know. So I wish him the best, but I see him now as an opponent of my party. And so I unfortunately will have to be on the other side and test him. Basically, that's what it is.
I see. So he raises a number of issues. The fact that his views were not really taken into consideration anytime he raised them. He has been a victim of a certain anti-Kufuor sentiment in the party. The party has been hijacked by a select few, you know, a number of issues. And he did say earlier that it appeared all processes leading to the election were skewed, you know, to favor a particular candidate. I mean, what's your thinking around all of these? I mean, as somebody who monitors the situation closely, do you think that there was any merit in any of these points he raised at all?
Well, as somebody who once upon a time warned of these things, let's put it that way, one of the reasons why I was suspended in the party was because I thought that certain things were being done that will precipitate the things that are happening now. It would have been great if some of those people who are complaining now, or the thing is affecting certain people, so they are complaining. But if those people had sided with me at the time, probably would have preempted these things from actually happening. And so I would not sit here and say that I don't know the specifics of everything he did say, but we do have issues in the New Patriotic Party, as there are issues in a lot of our parties. You can quote the Constitution all you want. I mean, in any political party, there are always tensions. Even when the law is there, people try to skirt the law, people gerrymander, people do all kinds of things. So I don't think it's largely true to sit down and say that we do not have issues and our democracy is perfect. No democracy is perfect. The whole American democracy itself is described as an experiment. No democracy is perfect. And as long as you have human beings who like to skirt the rules and bend the rules in their favor, one question would be that the National Council, who constitutes the National Council, were they really elected as the Constitution stated that they be elected? If so, who has the influence on the National Council? So when you sue somebody, the person may defer to the National Council or defer to an internal body because the person probably had a hand in constituting that body. We know that. So I think our party should be worried about Kyerematen going the way he has gone, because every party looks for numbers. And as for the primaries, it's 210,000. But then we have to face Ghanaians. And every single vote actually matters. When I saw the crowd, I was like, oh my God, if these people also, what they do, they have families, they have friends, they have relations, then it's likely to affect us going forward. And it's very important that we sit down and address these issues going forward. Some people may think that they are in privileged positions and they can speak whichever way they want to speak. But they should also remember that just as some people are realizing now, that if they are spoken earlier, these things would not have been trapping them. Those same people to sitting down and talking should also realize that one day they will also be in a position where they're not sitting where they are sitting. And some of these things will also be skewed and manipulated. And that time, they will have nobody to also come and talk. And when people speak against these things, nobody should take it as an assault on the party in any way. No, it is not an assault. The MPP party is supposed to be a broad church. You have to create it such that it can accommodate everybody regardless of their views, regardless of their stature in life. you should be able to tolerate. That's what is most important. You should be able to tolerate people's diverse views and wherever they stand. And that is the advice I would give to the leaders of the party at this time. Kyerematen's exit, I strongly disagree with him. I will fight against his bid to become president. However, I don't think it's right for anybody to sit down and say that there are no issues in the party. There are. If there were not, I wouldn't have spoken in 2015. So that's what I'll say.
Everybody talks about certain things being done in the party, but it's a party of a lot of people. So who are those people who do those certain things? Alan says it's been hijacked by a few. Nobody's actually mentioning names. Who are those people? Who are those people who were doing those certain things that made you speak up some time ago? Who are those people? Are they so powerful that the party in its might cannot bring them under control? Why so? I mean, who are those people who do the certain things?
Well, I in the previous interview many years ago, I did say that you don't have the people. You see situations, and it's in many parties, situations where every time the actors change, but the principle is the same, to control. So today, you have different actors playing that role. Several years ago, there were different actors, and the actors will change. Going forward, some of the people who are advocating and saying nothing is happening will find themselves on the other side, and different actors will take over. And when they do take over, they'll match those things to them, and then they'll start screaming. I'm saying that, look, in every political party, you're always going to have certain people who will be in power within the party. But what is most important is they should understand that they should create a space for everybody to thrive. If not, people are going to find ways. There'll be an implosion. And those are the things that we should be looking at. So it's not like specific people all the time from the beginning. It is a situation, and you have different actors coming in. So what we need to do is to always look at our constitution. The constitution is powerful and strong. If we all are fair to people, or even most importantly, let people perceive that we've been fair to them. Because you see, it's not enough to even be fair. People must perceive that when they come to the party will treat them very fairly. If they don't perceive that and trust is lost, it creates a lot of problems. And so that is what we as a party must be focusing on in general terms. As we move forward, let's not create situations where when we have people coalescing and becoming more powerful within the party, because once upon a time, Kyerematen belonged to a certain group that was very powerful in the party. Now he's not. And other people are. And one time to come, they also will not. And other people would. If that happens, how would they want themselves to be treated? When their focal cabinet upon issue happened, it had nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. But I thought, no, I don't have to sit down while certain things are being done to certain people. Because if I didn't talk about it, one day I'd find myself in a position where nobody will be there to talk for me. So the whole thing is, we are a party of laws. Now, it's nothing perfect. It's an experiment. We're going to keep amending. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be attempting to amend our constitution. We'll keep going and going. But let us all recognize that there is imperfection. And let us also try and fight against the human nature, because it is in all of us that once we get a certain position, we want to consolidate and then oust other people. Let's try as much as possible to fight against that tendency so that we create a broad church, a party for all.
Very well. So this is a big issue on 97.3 Citi FM. We're discussing the matter of the resignation of Alan Kyerematen and his subsequent declaration of independent candidature for 2024. What effect that has on the MPP, the election itself, and even the NDC, whether indeed Alan is a man to lead the so-called third force that people have been talking about. Does our political history support any third force, or has any independent candidate made any serious inroads in an election for people to be concerned about Alan Kyerematen's action or his exit from the party and what he wants to do? His symbol is the butterfly, signaling or symbolizing transformation. He wants to transform Ghana, but he obviously has not had the platform of the MPP, the political vehicle MPP, to do that. So he is going on his own, using the movement for change. We'll take a short break. When we come back, I'll hear from my good friend Alasan Suhini, Member of Parliament for Tamale North of the NDC, and then usual suspect Franklin Kujo on what they think about what's been happening. This is a big issue. Don't go away. You're welcome. Very big welcome to our TV viewers. This is the big issue. We're discussing two key issues. One is Alan Kyerematen's resignation and the subsequent formation of the Movement for Change. That is a vehicle he wants to contest and win election 2024. And he said it's a movement for young people. And so the young people who have obviously expressed dissatisfaction with the governance of our country, hardship, etc., appear to have a place to vent or a platform to ride on. Alan Kyerematen thinks that he's a man to lead this agenda. He calls it a movement for change. Is it really a credible or viable third force emerging? Is he the one to lead that mission? Having been part of the MPP, which is in power now, which people are complaining about in terms of hardship, etc., can he extricate himself from the difficulties in terms of record of the MPP and now present himself as a new guy with new ideas, new vision to lead the so-called movement for younger people, movement for change? Is that really what Alan Kyerematen is seeking to do? And is that a possibility? Even though we are told that the signals are right and it is possible, it's more than possible. Is it really the case? Also, we look at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and its matters around the dialysis fees, taking a decision on its own when it wasn't really supposed to do so. The ministry summoned a meeting to address that. But why should they do that? And also, is there a justification for it? They say things are expensive, consumables, cost of consumables have gone up, etc., as justification for their supposed increase. They've since reversed it. But what should be done to the people who took that decision? Why did they go that way? Why did they take that unilateral decision to do that? And should we revise the way we increase rates or fees for institutions like that without going through the process, parliament, etc.? What does it mean for patients, kidney patients who often go to do dialysis just to keep alive or stay alive? That is also part of our discussion today. My guest this morning, Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the MPP, Bo Bachman, spokesperson for the Alan Kyerematen campaign, Movement for Change, Sammy Crabbe, former National Vice Chair of the MPP, and yet to speak, Alasan Suhini, Honorable, Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Franklin Kujo, President, Imani Africa. All right, let me come to you, Suhini. Alan Kyerematen is such a towering figure in not just the MPP, in Ghana's politics. He is breaking ranks with his party. He said he's going independent, formed a movement, Afrafranto, the Butterfly Movement, Movement for Change, hoping to lead the young people who are obviously, most of whom are obviously disgruntled about the affairs of the state. Of course, you are an outsider, you are not in the MPP, but I think as somebody interested in election 2024, you should be concerned or interested in what Alan Kyerematen is hoping to do. How did the news come to you about his resignation and the subsequent formation of the Movement for Change? And how do you see this as NDC?
Well, Salam, good morning once again, and it's always a pleasure to share this platform with you. And let me say good morning to my colleague panelists, Ebo and Professor Haruna, who are in the studio, and those joining us virtually. Let me say good morning also to the viewers and listeners, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. It's humbling to continue to enjoy their support and their prayers. To a very large extent, Salam, I agree with the sentiments not only raised by Alan Kyerematen, but also raised by Mr. John Boedu, raised by Mr. Mpianim, raised by Boache Jaco, and just rehashed by Mr. Sammy Crabbe and Ebo. The NPP has become a pale shadow of itself. And so to that extent, I agree entirely with the observations that they have made. I mean, the NPP used to be seen as a party of elites, united and disciplined. In fact, the NDC was referred to as the riffraffs party because of the way that the NPP at that time organized themselves. And so, clearly today, when you look at the party, it does not resemble the NPP of the past. It doesn't, in any form or shape. And that is why sometimes I wonder what, again, people want to see before they come to the irresistible conclusion that Nana Akufo-Addo has become a scar not only in the NPP, but in the general politics of Ghana. And I'll come to that. But you see, I find Alan's withdrawal from the race first, as he did, as cowardly. And I see his breakaway and the recent bravado he's showing as a little too late in the day. And all of that will go against him, unfortunately. And the intention of leading, and his intention of leading this country. He had many opportunities in the past to show that bravado that could have led to a breakaway that would have been taken more seriously than today. So I have very little sympathies for him, except to say that when he says that this particular process of electing a flag bearer was skewed against him, you cannot take that away from him. It is clear that the establishment had a candidate, or they have a candidate, and they did everything within their power to make sure that that candidate emerged. And you see, when my brother Haruna was speaking and eloquently made references to the party's constitution, what he did not tell you, or perhaps let me say, what he did exactly is what the party council of elders and others have been doing. And that is why Mr. Alan Kyerematen will tell you that the party is hijacked. Why?
Using the rules?
Using the rules sparingly. Sparingly. So, for example, Haruna quotes Article 13.2.2 to say that at a vote, when you have to choose a flag bearer, delegates have one vote. Vote on one candidate. But you know what he did? He skipped 13.19.
Which says what?
13.19, read. Because you see, they have two forms of voting. The first voting is when the candidates are less than 5. Every delegate is entitled to one vote. Do you understand?
Yes.
But they say that when they have more than 5 candidates, there's a special, if you like, crop of delegates who will select the 5. And that is what happened.
So let me, 13.19 said, where there are more than 5 contestants for nominations as the party's presidential candidate, a special electoral college shall cast their votes by secret ballot for the first 5 contestants to be shortlisted.
Shall cast their votes by secret ballots to select the 5. It didn't say they will vote one person to select the 5.
No, but the article.
Wait. I'll explain to you. No, I'll explain to you.
Voting.
No, I'll explain to you. They say they'll select the 5 Salom, you see, let's get some education. It's politics. If you have a system that is to select 5 to go for a contest, and I can manipulate that system to emerge first, that is huge advertisement for me for the second process. Yeah. So, for example, Salom, if I have 900 people to choose amongst us around this table, so that 2,000 out there will choose, instead of putting billboards out, I can aggregate that budget and bribe the 900 that will vote us. Do you get it? When that 900, a chunk of that 900 think that I am the best, it has an impact on the 2,000 out there. We call it a bandwagon effect. It's a bandwagon effect. And so you see, if they wanted to be fair, they would have gone by the process where this 900 will go and select their best 5. If they selected their best 5, the council would have come out to declare the results that this is the best 5 selected in no particular order. That way, it has no impact on the 20,000 that is yet to vote. But when you want to take advantage of the bandwagon effect, and you know you have control over the 900, or you have the purse to bribe the 900, this is where you say that they must choose one and then choose a winner. Yeah. I mean, if you choose a winner, I mean, if the creme de la creme of the party chooses a winner. No, let me finish. I could have corrected you when you were speaking. When the creme de la creme of the party chooses a winner, you can imagine the impact, the effect it will have on those who originally did not think that winner is even the person they should go for. Let's not discount that. And so I'm just using this one example to say that I agree with Alan Kyerematen and his supporters that the whole system was skewed. And then you hear them say that, all the 9 aspirants kicked against this process, but the one person who was the beneficiary of the process didn't say anything. He said that whatever the council decides, he agrees. Why wouldn't he agree? Because he's part of the establishment and he knows whatever they decide will be to his benefit. And so he agreed. So for me, I'm saying that Alan Kyerematen's withdrawal, and that's where perhaps I agree with Sammy Crabbe, is cowardly. I believe in staying in to make a difference no matter how difficult it is. His withdrawal from the race was cowardly, and his breakaway, in my view, I'll repeat again, is too late in the day. The bravado he's showing now is too late in the day. But let me come back to the New Patriotic Party and what it has become, which is creating all these confusions. Look, many of us said it even before Nana Akufo-Addo became president of this country. But that is the problem we have in this country. We are not able to differentiate between mere partisan politicking and, in the process of that partisan politicking, what we have to focus on, especially when we want to show we are patriotic, and based on that, make decisions that will impact our country positively. Look, President Akufo-Addo in opposition showed all the signs that he is showing today as president.
As in what?
He indebted his party, Selo. He took the party to Prudential Bank, where they borrowed huge sums of money, and when the Prudential Bank threatened to sell their party headquarters because the party could not pay 2 million Ghana cedis, we thought it was just a political party in opposition and their issues didn't bother us. When the party chairman at the time and the general secretary resisted the proposal to use parliamentary aspirants, filing fees to defray that debt of Nana Akufo-Addo and his team, They were chased out of the party. Are you therefore surprised that today Ghana's debt is unsustainable? That he has borrowed us to our neck? No, are you surprised? That it is unprecedented. No government, no president has ever taken us on this path. When we are done with a first GDP, and it is not enough, and we are considering a second debt restructuring. Are you surprised? When you ignore the fact that in opposition, as opposition leader, he indebted his party to a point where a bank threatened to sell his party headquarters. You ignored it. And you thought it didn't matter. And you made him president. And he has indebted your country. And you are undergoing a haircut. The first one isn't enough. They are coming for a second one. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that as party leader, he opposed every dissent, crushed it with violence? Violence that even led to the death of his regional chairman. And then he goes to general election as president, and he's threatened with defeat, and 7 people lose their lives. First time ever since we started 1992, since we started this democracy in 1992. First time ever. Nobody has ever lost his life during elections in this country until Nana Akufo-Addo was threatened by defeat as president in 2020. And 7 people were killed. Are you surprised? Didn't you see what he did when he led his party? The violence he unleashed that led to the death of, even his party regional chairman. So I am saying that it is important that when these discussions are had, we are able to distinguish between the mere partisan politicking and the serious issues that will eventually come back to haunt all of us, whether you belong to that party or the party involved or not.
I see.
So I'm saying that clearly, the NPP today is a pale shadow of itself because largely of the kind of leader that they have. This is a person, I am informed, who has never missed a council meeting even as president. Even when he is away, council meetings are rescheduled for him to be present. That is how much control he has with the party. That's how much control he has with, he has over the party.
No, but he's such a huge figure. So if the president is not in town and you even have to reschedule the council meeting, why not?
Well, but it doesn't mean that because he's that huge, he is the repository of all knowledge. Things can be done in his absence. But Salam, I am saying that the NPP indeed has become, a pale shadow of itself. And members like Alan Kyerematen has said, and Kodjo Mpianim has reiterated, need to speak up unless they do not care about the future survival of this party. And Mr. Alan Kyerematen was smart when he said he's not forming a political party. He's forming a movement. And my view is that he still has some, residual love
for the NPP.
For the NPP. And he is hoping that perhaps this movement can lead to some, change that will shake the foundation as it is currently, positioned in the NPP, and perhaps give it a new lease of life. But if you read Boakye Jako's statement, what he said clearly was that Alan may have put his thoughts on paper, but many others have taken the same decision in their hearts, and they will express themselves on voting day. And that, for me, is very profound. It tells you that, and if you look at the kind of support Alan's breakaway has generated so far, it should tell you that he is simply manifesting the aspirations and the views of many people in the NPP. And so the party can decide to disregard his views and choose to ignore the things that he is saying. For us in the NDC, we have for a very long time now, in fact, even before he became president, consistently told the people of Ghana that the crop of leadership that Nana Akufo-Addo works with bad news for this country. The evidence is there to show unprecedented unemployment rate, unprecedented inflation rate, unprecedented deterioration in our education sector. And I'm not the one saying it. Read the ISODEC reports about basic education and read the reports on our environment, unprecedented devastation of our, environment and so on. So, and the corruption, hey, you can't even go there.
Very well.
The money is now under beds. And even when millions are stolen, they do not notice.
Very well.
So we are committed as a party to rescuing this nation, giving it hope, and resetting it on a path of growth.
Very well. Franklin, welcome to the program. To move the discussion forward, Alan Kyerematen, obviously a very big figure within the MPP, now forming his own movement. Organizational skills, he says he has organizational skills. Given how his votes have dwindled in the past, I'm not so sure. Does he have the capacity to lead this movement, to become the reference point for disgruntled young people, because I said it's a movement of young people, to lead these young people into an election and make any meaningful impact? He wants to be president, but can he really make an impact in the coming election? Does he have the capacity to marshal resources, marshal people, convince people, sell his vision, and cause an upset in 2024?
Well, good morning to your good self and my friends. Look, this is going to be an uphill task for him, really. If you talk that the two major parties have representations all over the place, there's going to be polling station vigilance. You need to mobilize every member of yours to be present at the polling station where results are actually, for the first ballot to be cast, at the collation centers and what have you. But even then, the whole party machinery that you must have in order to, as it were, not only sell your message, but sell the Kool-Aid as well. You know what I mean? Some of the freebies that are given as well. So it's going to be a monumental task for him. But I must admit and accept that he has a certain appeal, which doesn't seem to have faded away. If there's anything he's done with his breakaway message, I should say, is that he's trying to not necessarily claw back any integrity he's lost, because I don't think he's lost any politically, if you ask me. And by that, I mean in terms of scandals, in terms of some of the wild things we hear about certain politicians, he doesn't have that type of baggage. But certainly he's trying to shine his credentials a little bit more from what the party he belonged to is. Even there's a little problem, which I'll come to shortly. But I think clearly he's trying to say that, well, look at me, I'm unblemished. I could do so many things, but as to whether all of those would lead to significant votes, that is where the question really is. I do not doubt again his towering figure and possibly the fact that he still has some significant appeal within the party. But the party seems to have also evolved. In fact, Ghanaian politics has actually evolved as well. And in this case, the emphasis on the youth, which he seems to be interested in, maybe one way out or maybe one way through which he might try to, as it were, claw back into the hearts of people again. And I say this because the Alan we used to know, or we used to hear about, is actually not the Alan we know of today, right? In terms of the fact that a lot of water has passed under the bridge. There's been so many things that have overtaken him in terms of strategy within his own party and in terms of overall national politics. But I must say that the party, as the MPP itself, would have to be careful how they talk about him. I like the fact that the General Secretary was a bit more circumspect, and he did allude to the fact that Alan is still a towering figure, and to the extent that whatever he had against the party should have been democratically centered or discussed was his failing. Was for me one of the very positive responses by an MPP leadership to Alan's resignation. But as to, well, now as it is, he's led the party, he's formed the movement. He still needs to clarify exactly what he wants to do differently from his own party. Because most of the things he's saying are probably things that are still in motion within his party, and not necessarily significantly different from the woes that this country has suffered or have been inflicted upon by politicians forever. The innovation I want to see, maybe he would like to explain a bit more to us than he has done. And the things generally that will make him a significant appeal must be super, super, super different from the two major parties. If he's not able to do that, I'm afraid his personality, which he alluded to in one of the interviews I listened to, may not cut it at all, because people have moved away from personalities. I mean, the average Ghanaian today, whose life is critically in chaos, clearly is interested in ensuring that they can find a 3 square meal a day and possibly pay for healthcare as well. So there are so many other things, and of course, education and so many other things that I suspect has to be done. If Alan keeps promising, though, that he's going to be de-emphasize the centrality of leadership as in the presidency, which we all know has become something like a Commander 45, then what it means is that, yes, he may be appealing to maybe a few moderates and a few people within the elite circles. But as to whether those persons will vote for him based on the fact that he's likely to win, I think that would be quite an optimism that may be quite unwise. But as it goes, it is likely to change our political campaigns and make it quite sound. I think it's going to offer some sort of a clean break from the politics of insult, because he naturally is not a person who likes to dish out jargons and dish out what I call sarcastic comments. I think those are pretty well done by John and Baumia quite well. A bit of that may spice things up, but I think he might be offering some refreshing insights into exactly how leadership should be done. Some of the things he's referred to are quite interesting. I mean, to say that he doesn't belong to, you need a leader and not a party. Well, party or movements can produce good leaders anyway. The most important thing is what you do with power when you have the power. I'm one of those who do not necessarily believe that our constitution, even though there's so much power in the president, cannot use their power for any good. So there are so many things that may define the next election based upon some of the things Alan has said. But as far as that goes, when it comes to political mobilization, there's an uphill task, and maybe he's going to find solace, as he's already started, in the young people. But as to whether that will cut it, given the dense nature of our politics, where the major party machinery actually makes a lot of significant impact on any electoral outcomes, I'm not too sure he's there yet. And he needs to, well, he may have to break the cycle of what I call the cycle of curses. Since 1996, you recall, when all the persons who have moved away from their mother parties, from UGM up until Kusitano, and I think Konedu and who was it again? The former
Obeda Samoa is DFP.
Yes. When they all left their mother parties to form their parties, they performed abysmally, and in some regard, actually got quite insulting figures. To think that GUM, the party that was formed in 2000, or probably a little before that, sorry, 2020, before that, garnered over 100,000, 105,000 votes, beating even established parties like PPP and CPP. No party, no independent candidates had garnered votes beyond 80,000, actually beyond 76,000 that I think Guzitano did in 1996. So there's a record that he needs to break. Maybe he can do that. But clearly, there's a lot that goes into mobilizing a political power. I'm sure he himself is probably convinced that he's not likely to win power, but he might make a dent. If Alan manages even 200,000 votes, which supposedly will be from the MPP party, the MPP should be worried, really, given the tide that is swimming against them, a very disorganized economy, shambolic performance economic-wise, and indeed the fact that the last election they won by close to about 500,000. those things are already, these economic situations have already eaten into a chunk of those numbers. And now they have something else to deal with, an Alan Kyerematen who is on the loose. And who knows? Maybe he might just make a dent. If he manages 500,000, maybe 200,000, 250,000, MPP is in trouble.
I see. Interesting point there. I wanted to speak in terms of organization and strategy. We realize that many of the conventional politicians who have risen to the top had a way of using the media, for example. Nanado used the media quite, in a good way. So he had a statesman, and the statesman, from his father's days, but he used it quite well. Galvanized other media houses around him, statesman, the Daily Guide, etc., to help push an agenda when he was in opposition. Then we saw the formation of the DI, which was the think tank around his vision, etc., pushing it, being in the media every time, advocating his views, etc. Kennedy Japan, we see, owns a media conglomerate, or it's a media mogul, owns a number of media houses. Anytime he wants to speak, he's given the opportunity to speak. I'm not saying Alan should own media houses, but he's been a bit coy or shy from the media all through his time as minister. He will only come and speak, but you not see him engaging the media like somebody who had such a vision, maybe to be president, or dealing with the key issues, confronting issues, taking on people, taking on issues in the media. He would do that, but he sparingly did. Will you say that strategically he has failed to take advantage of the media to push himself to the top? He hasn't really done that. John Dramani Mahame's example may be different. He was in parliament, he became a running mate, and then he became president after Mills died. So that's quite different. But in terms of the guys in the MPP now and leading the pack, Nanado used the media quite well. Ken Ejipon is using that quite well. Baumia may not be a good example because he is a beneficiary of a governance system. So by virtue of himself being vice president, he has the media. Will you say that Alan hasn't used the media well?
Well, two things. First of all, Alan is a very laid-back person, and I think that he wanted to respect the fact that he was working within the party and probably did not want to outshine everybody. Probably one of his downfalls when it comes to strategy. But as it is now, he's broken free. That's what he says. Essentially saying he's free. And I've seen a few interviews he's granted, which are quite well done, I would say. If only some of the issues around why he's leaving the party would be suppressed quite a bit, then he would have a clearer message to the people. The question, though, is whether he alone should be doing that. He needs a better machinery, people who can speak better to the issues that are plaguing us right now, that he must form and establish, who must be willing to speak and speak coherently across the country. That's what he needs. He started off well, I should say, but that's just because he has to explain himself right now. He needs a better machinery, a party full of a group of people who are committed to his cause, who can answer intelligent questions as well. I think that's what he needs. Maybe he's forming that. We don't know yet, but that's what he really needs to do in order to break this media cycle. And of course, the media would love it because, look, getting to an election, the media would want to hear narratives from other supposed candidates who are contrary to the establishment to, the NDC and the NPP. Even though people assume that, well, Alan is still a scion of the NPP, and so maybe whatever he says may reflect the NPP stance. I think the media would love it because they would like to hear something different. And that's what Alan should invest in. He should invest in scholarship, as in putting together a competent team to do a proper diagnosis of the country's ills. I was a bit disappointed when he did his first GTP transformation speech. That was way before he left the party. It was a lackluster event, and it seems to me he's moved on a little bit. He's probably inched a little bit by 10% since he left the party in terms of ideas and talking strategy, but I think he needs to do a lot more. And that must be the guiding those thoughts that have to be invested in the strategy should be the guiding light for all its communicators across the country. Certainly the media will play a role. Yeah.
No, go ahead. Just conclude that point.
Yeah, I was just saying that certainly the media will play a role. I mean, Alan should by now be thinking about how the country will look like by 2028. I mean, any politician who gives me that, I'll tell people to vote for him or her. I like to see how the country will look like in terms of some of what I call being in the mimicking the habits of highly effective countries, of all the indices that we know about, global economic indices, human development indices, even happiness index, right? If I were Alan, I'll be internalizing all of this, look at all those models, look at where we are currently as a country, and then diagnostically decide through certain modeling how this country will look like, besting itself from the current position that it has on some of these indices, and see how it can become a very good country by 2028. That's what we want to see. I mean, that's what I am looking for, rather than anybody coming to tell me I'll build an industrialization bill. Those things mean nothing, really, at this stage. And if you come to one district, one this, one village, one that, one fish head, one schoolboy, one supporter. Look, those things are old and old-fashioned nonsense. They don't do anything to people. As we speak now, Alan should be able to tell us, and even Kennedy Japan should be able to have already plans to tell us that, look, if free SHS, they are going to continue, it's going to add value to the economy by X%. And the politician who doesn't promise any of that is not serious and should not be countenanced at all. Goes to the NDC and NPP as well. We really want better insights how our country will look like from 2020. Already 4 years of that, by the way, is in the DDEP. So anybody promising something beyond what we currently, our lives have been decimated by 3-4 years of current happenings, would mean that we want to see something brighter. So now that I've said it, they shouldn't come and say, oh, by 2028, Ghana will look like Washington, Accra will look like Washington. Please, that's not what I'm talking about. Come and tell us exactly how you're going to get there. And it must make sense, really.
I see. All right, Ebo, history doesn't really support, or history is not in favor of Alan Kyerematen. We've seen similar breakaways in the past. We saw reform in 2000. We saw DFP a bit later. We saw NDP. We even saw UGM in 2000. They didn't make any dent. They didn't do anything. How is Alan hoping to make himself count in this new endeavor?
Thank you, Salam. I think we need to, when we are giving examples of breakaways, sometimes you forget one particular one, that of Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
It's very important to consider Kwame Nkrumah's breakaway. And for me, if you go through the history of our country in respect of how we started our politics. Now, before Kwame Nkrumah broke away from UGCC, there were already agitations out there for political emancipation. So on the street, people were yearning for a change. So when Kwame Nkrumah broke away, the grounds were already fertile for him. Because, as I was saying, people were already agitating for a change. So he became that agent for the change that people were yearning for. And if you look at the situation we have now as a country, if you're going to be very honest with ourselves, Ghanaians are yearning for a change. Because for the past 32 or 31 years, we've had a political market that has been dominated by two political parties. This duopolistic political system that we've had for the past 32 years. And the results, I mean, what we would have expected that this system would have provided for this country, I'm afraid the results don't show that. And so Ghanaians are yearning for a change. And the question is, should that change be a change of another, that should come in the form of another political party, or it should come in the form of a leader who will be able to come out with policies and programs and plans that will help to transform our economy. For me, that is the most important thing. So if you consider the fact that Kwame Nkrumah's breakaway was successful because of the needs of the people at the time, people were yearning to break away from colonial rule.
Yeah, but you know, the difference is in the Kwame Nkrumah time, Kwame Nkrumah was the viable alternative. Now, NDC is a viable alternative. They've done it before, they've been there, they've done it, we've seen it all. They have a machinery in place. Alan is just coming, and he doesn't even have anything on the ground yet. We don't even know what he's going to say. So to compare Alan to Nkrumah, maybe...
The comparison, I made a comparison on the basis of change. What I'm saying is that even though NDC and NPP, they've been there for the past 32 years, I mean, the result is what we are experiencing now. So what I'm saying is that the alternative...
Alan has been part of that status quo.
Yes.
He was part of it from 92.
Yes.
To this week.
Yes, that is why it is important sometimes it is to step out of a system to cause a change. That is important. You see, interestingly, people forget that the constitution that we are running provides two means by which people can lead this country. Either you ride on the back of a political party or you go as an independent candidate. Now, for the past 32 years, the duopoly that we've been practicing, only two parties, these two parties, have managed Ghana. And I'm saying that if we are not happy with the way they've managed Ghana, the alternative should not be either political party. Let's look at the other side of it, where someone can come as an independent candidate, as Alan has put his plans forward, to form a government of national unity. And for me, if that alternative can be considered by Ghanaians, it will go a long way to help this country. And the movement, as Alan himself mentioned when he organized a press conference, he said the movements will be predicated on 4 important pillars. And he said the movement will seek to break the status quo. That's the duopolistic political system that we've been having for the past 32 years. And the second one, he said, to establish a government of national unity. Then he said, to build consensus on a national development plan. Then the fourth one, to inspire behavioral and attitudinal change. These are the pillars on which he wants to use this movement.
But we already have a national government, don't we? National government, which means that we have persons from all religious persuasions. We have persons from all the regions of the country. We have persons from everywhere.
No, that is on paper. I mean, let's be honest.
But we have Muslims in government. We have Christians in government. We have traditionalists and all kinds of people in government. We have the Constitution, in fact, tells us that we should have people from all regions, in cabinet or in government, forming a government. That is to give the government a national character.
No, the national government in this sense...
Political party.
But the national government in this sense is looking at the situation where you can harness all the potentials and the talent of all the political parties together.
So the national government is in respect of political parties?
No, political party... No,
I mean...
Because Salam, let's be honest with you. Let's be with ourselves. The current political system that we have, this duopoly, is a system that breeds winner takes all. I mean, let's be honest, unless you don't want to accept it. To the extent that in this country today, if you are holding Ghana card and someone is holding MPP or NDC card, depending on which party is in power.
The party card is
yes, that is the extent we are destroying.
No, because you first need to be a Ghanaian to have a party card. So the Ghanaian one is taken for granted because you are a Ghanaian.
That's what I'm saying. That is the seriousness of the issue. You see, if the two of us, Salam, are going to look for a job or contract, or we're going to seek for scholarship or anything that we need to benefit as Ghanaians, and I'm holding Ghana card, and you are holding MPP, MPP is in power. I become, in that regard, I become a second-class citizen to you. Even though originally I was born a Ghanaian. But because I decided not to belong to a political party, and a friend of mine decided...
So you've been disadvantaged?
Do you get the point?
That's a reality you say exists.
No, I mean it exists. I mean, if NDC is in power, it happens. MPP is in power.
And Alan wants to change that.
And that is what we need to change.
Let's test the issue about national government a bit further. Now, the Constitution, Article 78, tells us that majority of members of ministers must come from Parliament.
Yeah.
Now, MPP is on this side, NDC is on the other side. He is not fielding independent candidates, he's told us. Now, how does he get majority from Parliament? You want to appoint somebody, Minister of Finance, maybe from the MPP. MPP will say, no, we don't like you. You don't. All our people will not take any position from you. NDC too, I'm not sure, because they won't send their people to come and help you. The next election, how do they fight the next election? So there could be that thing, that they will not allow their people to come freely serve in your party. They must resign first. And that is a difficulty. How will he form a government?
No, you see, for the sake of our country, if Alan becomes the next president, because this is the first time an independent candidate wants to be president.
But it's not just an independent candidate. So if you have other independent candidates like Joy, etc., they don't have any, call it baggage. They've not angered any side of the divide.
But you know, Alan.
But now Alan Kamil is angered the MPP. His president will MPP allow Kenneth Furata to go and be his vice president. His finance minister.
You know Alan. You know his persona. He's a unifier.
Yes.
And he reaches out to all the political parties. The point I'm making is that if we have a national government where appointments will not be based on loyalty, but on competence.
But he must first satisfy the Article 78 test.
That is
majority of ministers from Parliament.
You see, it's going to happen, and then when we get there, we shall cross the bridge.
The people will come and support him against their party.
No, as the name implies, it's a national government. Why would you want to be part of a government that seeks to...
So Sweden, for example, he's a member of Parliament for NDC.
Yeah.
So he's crossed the first hurdle.
Yeah.
He can be a minister properly so-called.
He's a fine gentleman.
Yes, you appoint him as minister for whatever. And his party says, no, Sweden cannot go. Because if Sweden goes, we want to come to power. You will go and be working against us.
But we shouldn't allow these two political parties.
No, but that's the reality. That's the constitution.
To
That's what
and
it is.
dominate. No. You see, Salom, let's. You see, it's like we are putting the cart before the horse.
No, but we need to know how it works so that we can support you.
Yeah. So, but when it comes to appointment of ministers, as you rightly said, don't you think it would be nice to have a situation where we have ministers like one cabinet? You see NDC people sitting here, MPP people sitting here, people who are not into politics, like people from the academia, from the labor, from the business community, being part of a cabinet, where when you present a budget, there won't be any confusion like what you normally see in Parliament, where the national agenda becomes the priority and not political agenda. I'm saying that if we're able to do that,
it looks very beautiful on paper. We are with you.
Anything that looks beautiful on paper,
that's what we want.
Yeah, anything that looks beautiful on paper can be beautiful on the ground if you commit our hearts to it. And I'm saying that if you do that, it's going to help us. Now, I want to quote two very important politicians.
Quickly.
Yeah, two very important politicians. First, I want to quote something that George Washington said in his farewell address in 1796, 9th September. You know, Washington, in those days, there were no political parties. He was the first president of America. He won as a federalist, but not like on a ticket of a political party. So more or less, he won as an independent candidate. George Washington said something. He said, let me now take a more comprehensive view and warn you in the most solemn manner against the baneful effects of the spirit of party generally. If you read what he said, and particularly this quote, he was worried about the effects or the baneful effect. Baneful, you can put harmful there or destructive there, destructive effect of the spirit of party politics. For me, we are where we are as a nation because of this spirit of party politics that allows the winner to take all, that allows people to be appointed to sensitive positions, not because of their competence or their qualifications, but because of their loyalty, like as we've experienced in this country over and over again, a system, a political system that has divided us so much that if you go to parliament, sometimes you wonder, look at what happened when the e-levy was being passed. Look at what happened when we were selecting our, how do you call it, the Speaker of Parliament. I mean, this is the system we've practiced for 30 years. Question, are we happy with the result that has come out after 32 years or 31 years of practicing this duopolistic political system? And for me, I don't think any Ghanaian can say it's been all well and good. Now, the opposite, which Alan is proposing, is that, fine, as we have it now, Salom, after riding on the back of political parties to become president, what we hear is Nanado's government, Mahama's government. So after they've won, they become bigger than the party.
And it will be Alan's government.
Yes, and so I'm coming. So emphasis is not on the party. The emphasis is on the person.
Okay.
So if you want to select someone to be the chief executive of the country, why should you consider the party on which he pursued that ambition to become president? Why should you consider the party? Because the power of the president, the executive power, is not vested in the party.
The party, very well. We know that. That's why there could be an independent candidate who will win to be president.
No, I wanted to...
Okay, so land, land quickly.
Yeah, so the point I'm making is that if we have a situation where if it is not NDC, it is the MPP for 32 years, and there's the need for us to change what we don't like, and the Constitution provides for another avenue. Why don't you, as a nation, try that avenue to see whether this time around, with this government of national unity, we will be able to solve the problems that have been bedeviling this country for 32 years. And for me, that should be it.
I see.
That should be it.
All right.
Going forward as a nation.
I'll take a short break. Of course, a number of you haven't spoken, and we're trying to manage the time. We'll take a short break. But before that, let me just share two of your messages that have been coming through. And your messages are still welcome via 0549 986 996 and 0204 447 033. We'll be happy to read them out to the rest of the world. Babamu Tamale says, indeed, I wasn't surprised. Mr. Kyerematen took the decision to quit the MPP. We the MPP believe in the rule of law. The DMB signals are poised to break the 8. It's possible. My regards to DGS, Haruna Mohammed, a.k.a. Prof. All right. Chichidudu from Hohoi says, Alan is trying to liberate the party from a control freak. MPP people should know that if this is not done ASAP, everyone would have to seek one man's approval before anything comes to him or her, even when he's out of leadership. Alan will weaken his claws. We'll take a short break, return, and deal with the other matters, in this Alan matter before we move on to our next topic. Don't go away. I'll come to you now. Welcome back to the big issue. Very interesting discussion. Alan Kyerematen is formed a movement that he hopes to win the election, but there are issues with that constitutionally, etc., that we'll have to scale. Let me speak to Sammy Crabbe. Sammy Crabbe, Alan is bent on doing what he's doing. What challenges do you foresee he will face, and what do you think works for him?
Well, it's not easy to organize a political movement. It's really difficult. And I think you face a lot of challenges in putting together a machinery that can come up against the MPP and the NDC. It's going to be extremely difficult. I have experienced politics from my early days. I used to be an organizer in a ward in Ablekuma North. I became the secretary, Alliance for Change, Greater Accra region, branch. I became a regional chairman, member of National Council, National Executive Committee, a vice chairman, ran for the chairmanship and lost. So I know how effective those machineries can be. They're like juggernauts. I am not too concerned about Alan winning the election. Seriously speaking, I think if you were to have Alan in a private conversation, he will tell you that he doesn't expect to win the general election. I don't think he expects to win. It's the spoiler candidacy that we should be looking at. If you remember Ralph Nader, if Ralph Nader had not entered the race, Al Gore probably would have been president. Al Gore would have won Florida. It's the spoiler effect that I am concerned about. I remember, must have been before 2014, the current president, Nana Akufo-Addo, and I were sitting alone. I mean, I was supposed to have met him in his apartment, but he said, look, we want some privacy, let's go to a hotel lounge. So we met there and sat down. And at that time, he just told me something that I think resounds today. He said he doesn't really think that political parties win elections. He thinks that political parties in government lose elections. So, and I think it was very profound. What it then means is that it is the party that self-destructs. I mean, more so than other parties coming in to make inroads. So, NPP itself must do some introspection. If we are breaking apart, and trust me, there are many people out there who perceive that they don't have any space in the party. And I think for once, I will agree with Boakye Jakun that a lot of people may end up voting. I mean, in their hearts, they've made up their minds. I mean, I say this all the time, even my mother in my house. She's so disillusioned, and she's always taking out on me when I have nothing to do with government. So there are a lot of people out there who feel pissed off, and that may be our problem. The competition is not necessarily people outside. A professor of my marketing professor once said, competition is anything that takes away from your profits. It doesn't necessarily have to be external. If your internal doings are not correct, they put pressure on your income and take away from your profits. So if our internal doings are not proper, it will take away from our profits. In this context, it means our votes. And that is what we should be more worried about. I heard you talk about some hypotheticals. I really don't think Kyerematen will win anyway. But they're hypothetical that should he even win, he'll have a problem forming the government. It's happened before. I mean, Kufuor appointed Indo. He wasn't in the party. And we have a second, speaker, deputy speaker of parliament, who is an independent. And the party decided to caucus, to court him and caucus with him because they needed him.
No, but these instances are quite different. In the case of...
Let me advance. Can I advance my argument?
Very well.
Okay, so let's have a hypothetical situation, because what we are dwelling on is just hypotheticals. Let's have a hypothetical situation where Alan Kyerematen should even win. And the New Patriotic Party realizes that, oh my goodness, it would be better for us to be in government than outside of government. Can we talk to Alan Kyerematen? After all, he was one of us, just as Siama was. And then see if he will become our president. He has roots in the party. You could also have a situation like that. So these are all hypotheticals. That's all I want to say. These are hypotheticals. You have a situation where people will decide that there will be MPs for Kyerematen. The New Patriotic Party will join with him and then make him their president. At the end of the day, he was one of us. You know what I mean? But then again, I don't think he will be able to win. And I don't even think he has to win to damage the NPP. He just has to take votes. Like, when Franklin was speaking, he talked about the 500,000. And sometimes people think that if you won by 500,000, you need 500,000, or somebody needs to move 500,000 away from you to win. No. If the person moves 50% plus one of the 500,000, you are in trouble. All things being equal, So Alan Kyerematen taking 250,000, 300,000 can even create a lot of problems for the new. If he takes it from our votes, our 500,000 votes, he just needs to move away, a certain chunk of it, and then we can be in trouble. So I do not think that Alan Kyerematen, to sum it up, will be able to make it. I don't think so, but I'm not God. I don't know. I'm not God. But I think, given my experience, it would be very, very difficult for him to create the kind of organization. And he also needs the grit. You know, if somebody moves away from a fight this easily, I have my doubts that he will be able to slug it out against two juggernauts like the MPP and the NDC. It's character, ability to stay in a fight that matters. You know, like Kennedy Japan, say what you may about Kennedy Japan, he has what it takes to stay in a fight and slug it out at the end of the day. Maybe that character itself will be telling. Because here we have a country that is malfunctioning. So you need people who can stay in and fight to make sure that that country is transformed. So it's not, we are not only talking about a situation where you read big English and then manifestos and things like that. It's the character of the person there to stay in and slug it out when things go tough. And so I really don't think that he'll be able
to. But let's test this whole thing about staying in and slugging it out. John Bodu said the same thing. But if I'm in there, I'm suffocating. I mean, my views are not heard. Nothing I say is working. I can't stay in there, suffocate and die. I have other views. I have other avenues to get to the same thing I want to do, to be president, to change the country, to lead the country. Why will I stay in there for the sake of party and suffocate and die with my ideas? I don't have to do that, do I?
Well, then if you don't mind, I'll use myself as an example. You know what happened to me in the past. It's never crossed my mind to fight from outside. Because you see,
but you didn't, as far as I know, you didn't want to be president. You just wanted to serve the party. You didn't want to be president. He wants to be president. And the Constitution gives him other avenues, and he's chosen that. Well, unless, of course, you wanted to be president and we didn't know.
No, you're moving things around. I mean, here is the principle. I was talking about the principle of people staying in and slugging it out. And I moved it from what has happened now even to the presidency. Being a president, it is not going to be about wanting to be president. It's going to be about wanting to complete issues facing Ghana and your abilities to stay in and fight when things are tough. So those things can be compared. In my case, there were issues. I had a choice to move out and say, I'm pissed off. I'm not going to get involved in politics anymore. But I decided to stay in and slug it out. So I never moved. I'm not moving out of the New Patriotic Party. It's not for anybody. I'm going to stay in there. A lot of people, my dear friend, look, it's amazing. I have dear friends. John Bodu is my very, very dear friend. Very, very dear friend. But once upon a time, he was in trouble in the New Patriotic Party. He got out of trouble, he became a general secretary, and people get into trouble. Even Wontumi was once upon a time suspended. So people go through so much within a political party. Sometimes you may be influential, other times you may be on the fringes and other things. But I think quitting should be the last thing on your mind. To me, it is a measure of your ability to slug things out when the going gets tough, regardless, because nothing in this world is easy. Absolutely nothing.
I see.
So if you just want to be president for the sake of being president, that's a different thing. And that's where I depart from Kyerematen. However, I don't take anything away from his contributions to the party. He's done well for the party, but I see him as an opponent now. And I really and truly do not believe that he can form a machinery strong enough to beat the MPP.
I see. Haruna, a lot has been said. Sweeney said a few things, and I'm sure a number of things have also been said. But Sammy Crabbe is saying that we should be worried about Alan's spoiler candidacy. He calls it the spoiler candidacy. He will just spoil votes for the MPP. And I understand his campaign will be launched in your stronghold, which is his base as well, Ashanti region. That should obviously make you worried.
Definitely. As a political party, once he was with us and he has taken a leave of us, we must be very worried because it is one vote counts in election. One vote counts. However, the national leadership of the party is taking cognizance of this particular matter, and we are dealing with it from the base of the party to make sure that we now consider Alan as a political opponent, just like Sammy Crabbe has said. the way we treated him when he was within and decided to go out of the race will be different from how we will treat with him as the leader of the movement. So now you treat him like the way you treat NDC, boot for boot. Yeah, so he's another party, virtually just a party now. We have to handle it as such. I like most of the portions that Sammy Crabbe has raised. He talked about that it's like a moon. Today it will be on your side, tomorrow it be on your side. You can remember in 2007, Alan was the systems candidate. All manner of things were being done. I come from Zabzugu. The DCE for Zabzugu was sacked. Alasan Yakubu Bukari was sacked because he was not supporting Mr. Alan. A lot of other people were frustrated.
We know they were sad because of that.
So Akufo-Addo had his own share. He stayed in. J.H. Mensah wanted to become president. Akunta to His Excellency John Atekum Kufuor. He contested with him. He couldn't make it. Professor Aduboahin contested, became the flag bearer, and then came and lost to J.H. Kufuor. A lot of other people. I believe in the concept that you stay and then fight on to be able to achieve what you want. But he has decided to go out, and we still respect his decision and also acknowledge his contribution to the New Patriotic Party. In fact, we'll use most of the achievement that the government has through his ministry, just as the General Secretary has counted, because an achievement of the party. I just want to make one correction. When my good brother said that he could have corrected me when I was speaking. If you read Article 13, 1, which is about election of the presidential candidate.
Of your constitution.
Of the constitution. And then you read further to Article 13.1.9. It talks about selecting of 5 candidates. All that process is talking about the selection process. The Article 13.2 talks about voting in the presidential primaries. So that Article 13.1.9, which is one of the process, which is the definition to the super delegates conference, would have to go through election. So the Constitution demarcated Article 13.2.2. That Article 13.2 is the voting in presidential primaries. And that particular 9 is part of the process. So you can't entirely discuss Article 13.1.9 of the voting without coming through how the voting is being done. So the 2.2 clearly defines how voting is done. And that is where it says that where there is more than one contestant, each delegate will cast his or her vote by secret ballot for one of the candidates. This is very clear. So that is what I want to straighten up. This one is towards the election. It's just a process. And this is one
but he raised,
of the process.
Point he raised is quite
fertile
point.
No, but it does not sit in here because what he is saying is talking about the process. Then when the process comes, what is the election time? This is this provision talks about election. And the Super Delegates Conference is one of the process to the primaries of the elections. Because if you have less than...
So the primaries, what you did is not primaries. The
primaries it's one of the process. Yeah, it's one of the process. So this is the primaries. It's voting in primaries. So it's one of the processes in the primaries. It's one of the processes in the primaries. The super delegates, yes, you have more than 10, and you have more than 5. And then when you have more than 5, you are still making presidential primaries.
To establish a system of selecting 5.
And that is where the
that selection.
Let me tell you now. Let me tell you.
First and another
the point is that process of establishing and getting the 5. The Article 13.2 defines how the voting is done.
So I think the point is the suggestion is that
it defines how the voting is done.
The suggestion is that you make it like how you do for the vice chairmanship.
No, we don't make it. This is a constitution. We are talking about constitution, not what people.
Let me.
Please. No.
That's why I'm asking.
Please,
MPP
please. You soon join the MPP. You soon join the MPP because the road will become very tough. You soon join the MPP.
So once you are done. I'm not done.
So what he's talking about is entirely different from what that particular provision is talking about. It's talking about election. Whichever process that is leading up to the primaries is going to take form of Article 13.2 of the party's constitution. And some comments were made. You talk about Sammy Crabbe, you talk about Ebu, you talk about Ajaku, what they said about the party. And I think you mentioned John Boydo. I don't think John Boydo had said something against, like, the party is being hijacked.
John Boydo says to stay in the party and make it.
Yeah, so that is it. But
that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
they're all saying
yes,
there are problems. And I'm saying
but he was talking about a pie shadow. Yes,
yeah.
but that one, pill shadow. But John Boydo has not said
John
that.
Boydo did
not say that. So I want to just establish.
No,
you said when you were mentioning the name. John Boydo's name was mentioned.
You don't go out.
Yeah, his name was mentioned when he was talking about the pill shadow, and his name is not. And
wait, I'll give you 50
What I'm
seconds.
saying is that, no, I think...
Let him
I'm not
finish
done.
No, but you need to speed up.
I'm not done. I'm very surprised that he says that the Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP has become so violent in such a nature that everything is not going on well. But he has forgotten that John Dramani Mahama has said that their party, they are the paramount chiefs of violence, and because they are from the
maybe he said so
rules.
because he realized that you guys were beating him to it.
No, we are not. Because they said they are the paramount.
He had to remind you that you are dealing with
they are His Royal Highness when it comes to violence. They are from revolutionary rules. But it is also not correct that the first time 7 people have died in an election. It's not true. When you check on your portal, 10th of December 2020, you reported that the police had reported 5 deaths, not 7.
No, I even thought it was 8.
In fact, some people say 9.
If you check now, it has not. People are saying, but that is what the police. That is what the police has reported. That is what. So even the one. That is why I'm coming. I have an import. You know what happened in Cherpany?
I'm not surprised.
You know, people died. This is not the first time people die in elections. People died.
No, but is that the way
no, but
should go?
no,
Many years
it shouldn't
on,
go like that. But it is not that. It is because it is happening under one particular government. But it happens in several other instances.
In a general election,
even one death is not.
General elections, people who die.
Shouldn't be evaluated to say it's positive. Even one death.
Like the way
you get
the guy almost lost his one eye.
Yes, like the let my vote count. The way
he's talking about the northeast.
No, but I'm also talking about the eye. You know, these are several eyes. The let my vote, he lost the eye and he died out of that. So these are things that, and then strongly, National Council meeting, he says that if the president is not there, that's not true. The last National Council meeting we had, the president was not there. We had a National Council meeting on the 20th. That was my daughter's birthday, 20th of July. The president was not there. So it's not every National Council meeting that the president is there. He's a member.
They don't wait for him.
The president is a member. The National Council, in fact, is chaired by the chairman.
He finished cooking everything, so he didn't have to be in the last 2 meetings.
You see,
that's what the last 2 meetings. If you say he wasn't there, I can't challenge it. But I'm telling you, he has finished cooking there.
You see, the National Council is chaired by the national chairman of the party. So it doesn't need the president to be there before the National Council sits. So it is not correct. If you say Akufo-Addo had indebted the party, he has done what and what. But John Mahama was cited for Amajaro. He came into government, then he had the bus, Brandon, the Airbus, and all that. So these are examples. Clearly, if we have to all go, we will be giving examples of leaders who have done things in the past and came into government and did worse than that. But the MPP and Nana Akufo-Addo, we are very focused, and the MPP will make sure that we'll make the amends and make sure that we bring back power.
Very well. We need to transition. So I'm not calling you, sir.
Yes, because the first we are going to call you, sir.
Yes, I'm wondering why I'm calling you, who I've known for many years. Who I've known many years. So
yes, I think maybe it's because my senior brother comes here more often than I do.
So maybe we need to, So just 2 minutes, wrap it up.
I'll try. I will not respond to many of the issues that my brother has tried to address, because I am convinced that even in his attempt, he has not taken away anything that I said from the beginning.
Okay.
But I just want to make it clear that when you look at their constitution, 1322 may be for voting, but 1319 also requires a certain process that can be used not to disadvantage any of the 10 in this particular case. There were 10 candidates, right?
Yes.
Salom, though I was a science student in secondary school, I didn't like maths very much. But I'll try to put it in a mathematical formula to suggest to Prof. Haruna and others that indeed you can still go through a process that will ensure that the council, that's what they are called, the super delegates, will have one vote for each of the five, which will still satisfy 13-2-2, where one vote is done. Because their task is simple. You have 10 candidates. They are supposed to select 5. So that 5 will now be taken through a voting process to choose 1. So when you have, what it therefore means is that you have to find, as we say in maths, I will use the letters A, B, X, Y, Z. So you have to find A. So because in every contest, if you have 10 people, it means 1 against 9, 1 against 9, 1 against 9. Are you getting it? So let's say A against 9, B against 9, X against 9, Y against 9, Z against 9. So that process of selecting will find A, B, X, Y, Z. So that is where you allow them to go in and find A, B, X, Y, Z. In that process, they will be entitled to vote in one contest. So that means you have 5 contests. You have A, B, X, Y, Z contests. So they choose one in each of the 5. And in that choice, when it is aggregated, you find the 5. That way you don't disadvantage anybody. Because their decision, if you allow it to choose who is a winner, has an impact on the general election. So you don't do that unless you want to do it deliberately. And that's why I'm saying that clearly that voting system was skewed. You cannot run away from it.
No, I see.
If you look at Article 13.1.9 and you apply this A, B, X, Y, Z principle that I use, you would have come out with a better process that would have been fair to all candidates.
Is that this has been used before?
To wrap up, Salom, I just want to appeal to Ebo, and maybe many who may have also been taken into that movement of forming unity government. That look, sometimes I have a feeling that as a people, we really know what we want. We just fail to identify it when we see it. And we keep searching. I mean, for example, Sammy Crabbe gave the examples of Freddie Blay and others in government and Ndum and others. But look, if it is about CSOs sitting in cabinet, leaders of civil society organizations sitting in cabinet, and technocrats and academicians sitting in cabinet, President Mahama, as president, appointed Professor Nana Jane Opoku from the academia, appointed Nanoye, who was, until her appointment, was one of the leading activists in this country in terms of human rights abuses and all of that. I lie. In fact, even during her vetting, some of them claimed that they did not even have the NDC card. Do you understand? Professor John Dramani Mahama again appointed Raymond Atuguba. You remember, from academia. Talk about civil society organizations. I mean, Sule Garba and others were all in government. And these were not people who didn't have standing in the field that they played in. Heck, let me even land with that. Even a blind man was appointed a minister of state. What didn't he endure? As a result of these things, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we don't even recognize
but there was no NPP person in government. But I need to make that.
What I'm saying is that we were talking about getting people, from civil society, from academia, and I'm saying that we have been there. We have a leader who has demonstrated his ability to do that, to rise above the partisanship and give opportunities to people based on their competence. And I'm telling that all these people, Professor Raymond Atuguba, Zule Garba, Nana Jane Opoku, Naoye Lita, and others, came with a lot of experience from the fields that they operated in. And no wonder that he was able to leave the legacies that he left, the development. Today, he's called the infrastructure king, not because he slept and dined, at the presidency. Clearly, President Muhammad, the unprecedented levels of infrastructure that he established cannot be contested. The policies, when it comes to speak to people in diplomatic circles, they'll tell you when it comes to policy, President Muhammad's government was second to none. And it is because all of these people impacted, the governance that he provided. Look at the gender ministry. Since Nana Oye left that gender ministry, has it been as it was then?
Great points there. Well, so this is a big issue. 97.3 Citi FM and on Citi TV and on Facebook. Franklin Kujo is on, but we'll make the transition to the next issue. I'll take a short break. When we come back, so guys, thanks so much. Sammy Crabbe, former National Vice Chairman of the MPP, thanks so much for speaking to us on this, and your views, have been very much appreciated. Abu Bakman, spokesperson for Alan Chematin Campaign, who wants more time. Thanks so much, but we'll talk more. And Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the MPP. Thanks, guys, for being on the program, and your views well appreciated. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll then move to the discussion on the Korle Bu kidney dialysis fee increment and what that means for us. Alasan Suhini, Franklin Kujo will be on that panel. Dr. Thomas Anaba, former medical director of Ridge Hospital, Major Kojo Ahinkra, who's a kidney patient, will also be on that panel. This is the big issue. Don't go away.
Yes, the Presbyterian Boys Secondary School Presec hits the big 8-5 as part of the 85th anniversary celebrations. Presbyterian Boys Secondary School and the Odadia Global Association presents the Presec at 85 Grand Durbar on the theme Building Upon a Legacy of Excellence. Come experience the biggest gathering of students, staff, and Odadias. Date Saturday 30th September 2023. Venue the Presec School grounds at 10 a.m. sharp. The chairman for the occasion, the Right Honorable Professor Odadiep Mike Okwe, the former Speaker of Parliament, and our special guest of honor, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, President of the Republic of Ghana. The dress code: come in your Presec at 85th anniversary cloth. Since 1938, we've been consistent in building upon a legacy of excellence for Mother Ghana, Africa, and the world.
Yeah, welcome back to the big issue. We move to the next issue. I mean, sometime late last week or early this week, we saw a press statement from the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, which said that it had increased the renal dialysis cost from 380 cedis to 765 cedis. And this has been met with outcry from the public who are concerned about affordability of the treatment. Dialysis is a life-saving treatment for people with kidney failure. It removes waste products and excess fluid from the blood when the kidneys are unable to do so. However, it is a costly treatment, and many people in Ghana cannot afford it. In an interview with Citi News, some of the patients or some of the people who rely on dialysis treatment at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital expressed their concern about the price increase. Management of the hospital clarified that it has not yet implemented the reviewed dialysis cost announced by the facility. There is more in the following report.
A notice by the head of the dialysis unit at the center has announced an increment in the cost of dialysis treatment. The price has risen from 380 Ghana cedis to 765.42 Ghana cedis. This announcement has received mixed reactions from the public.
I heard that they have increased the dialysis. And what I can say is that even the 380 Ghana cedis, they can't afford. And today you can see that 700 and something Ghana cedis, then people are going to die. Because when you look at the situation, even for Korle Bu to even do some subsidy on this dialysis is possible. Yeah, patient cannot pay. Go even 380 something Ghana cedis. When you come, even the machine said there's no reagent there. When you go there, they say they are doing only emergency. So people are dying. People are dying. So now it's 700 and something. How can they pay with this economy?
And if you read the notice, the indication is that the price had moved from the current point to almost 700 Ghana cedis. In fact, in excess of 700 Ghana cedis. I got alarmed by that particular notice because I know people who go for dialysis sometimes 3 times in a week, and they need to do that plus or minus 12 times in a month. And so if the person needs to do it 12 times in a month and he hasn't to pay in excess of 700 cedis per session, just do a simple calculation. That's huge. You need to have dose of income or money to be able to sustain that. If there's any way, is it possible that National Health Insurance can even intervene? Is it possible? So that we can look at all the scenarios, the possibility of National Health Insurance getting involved to, as it were, to minimize the impacts on persons who go for their dialysis every week.
According to the hospital, they have met with the patients privately to discuss the fees. In addition to the increment in dialysis treatment, the hospital has resumed its routine operations at the dialysis center. This positive development comes after the hospital received a much-needed consignment of renal consumables. Previously, the center had to temporarily close down due to a shortage of the medication required for renal dialysis. Mustafa Salifu, the public relations officer of the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, explains that the treatment interruption occurred due to contractual issues with the supplier.
We had some contractual issues with the suppliers of the consumables that we use to do the renal dialysis, and that caused some delay in getting the consumables imported into the country for services to our patients. But thankfully, last week we took delivery of those consumables, and then we are starting to provide the service from today to the patients.
All right, so that was that report, which tells us about the increase in the fee for dialysis. That has since been reversed, and the health minister summoned the management of Korle Bu Teaching Hospital for a meeting. I start off with you, Suhindi. You are in Parliament. Just briefly, you know, these are agencies. We know about the Fees and Charges Act, which tells us how certain agencies of government must charge, etc. The fees must be approved by Parliament. Tell us the process. How does it work? And how come, in your view, this didn't go through that process? It just came up all of a sudden and people had to pay a new price or a new fee.
Well, I think first of all, there's a need for one to commend the First Sky Group Limited. When the story broke, I will speak for myself. I found out that the First Sky Group has been taking care of 60% of patients that go to the renal unit at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. And I think it is commendable, and they have been doing so in the last 8 years. Wow. And there's a need for us to commend them and hope that other agencies like them will continue to do the great things that they do in the quiet in support of this country. People were upset, and rightly so, because one, it was unconstitutional for illegal, let me put it that way, for the unit to increase the rates the way they did. And I also think that it's appeared a bit insensitive given the economic circumstances that we all find ourselves, and the fact that this is a matter of life and death it is not one that you can choose to do or not to do. Not doing the dialysis means you are dying. And so I think that a matter like that shouldn't have been handled in that lackadaisical way. And so people were rightly upset. The Fees and Charges Act of 2020, that's Act 1080, outlines what departments, agencies, and ministries have to go through in order to get their fees approved. And that wasn't done. And so I'm not surprised that the hospital had to be called to order by the ministry, because the responsibility is more with the ministry. The minister, even though gets these fees and charges approved annually, has the power to also periodically review the fees and charges of agencies and departments under him. And it is based on that review that rates can either go up or come down. And if all of that wasn't done, the ministry did right by instructing the agency, in this case Korle Bu, to suspend the rates. I am, however, surprised that the CEO suggested that the management had not approved the fees, and yet a notice was put out, and it was actually implemented because some people paid and there are receipts to show. And you had even the hospital PRO speaking to the media and justifying, the increment. It brings to mind the kind of management structure that may exist at Korle Bu. I mean, why, unless of course the CEO was just being diplomatic and trying to manage a very bad situation. Otherwise, it will be telling for a unit to implement a decision without management approval, a decision that affects human life without management approval. I think that it doesn't tell very well on the management of the hospital. But I want to use this opportunity to also commend the Tamale Teaching Hospital for the yeoman's job that they do in this regard. If you look at the data, the Tamale Teaching Hospital serves almost all the northern regions.
Part of the country.
Yes, the northern part of the country when it comes to dialysis services. And unlike the South, you do not even have private institutions also providing this service. In fact, my understanding is that some come as far as Burkina Faso to Tamale to undertake dialysis. And they just have 5 kits, at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. And the pressure you can imagine that exists on these 5 kits. And unlike Korle Bu again, they do not have the pleasure of getting support from any private entity to absorb the fees. But Selom, interestingly, the Tamale Teaching Hospital also acquire or purchase their consumables from the same vendor. From the same vendor here in Accra. And guess what? They have to even transport their reagents, their consumables from Accra to Tamale. Yet, they are still charging 300 Ghana cedis per session. As against 380 that is done here in Accra, and now being contemplated to be raised to about 780, 60. So I think that the Tamale Teaching Hospital deserve commendation. They must be doing something right. If they are charging less, even though they get the consumables at the same price, and then they transport it to Tamale. So we need to interrogate the issues. But there must be agreement when it comes to the fact that prices of goods have skyrocketed. There are many reasons for that. But one of the things we cannot run away from is the charges that importers have to pay at the port. Salom, it is crazy. In some cases, the charges have quadrupled, within a very short period of time. A 40-footer container that, used to be cleared at about 3,000, at about 1,971, Ghana cedis, is now being cleared at about 3,000 348. And that was in January. I'm sure it's even, that was in October last year. I'm sure it's even higher as we speak now. So it's all of these impact on the prices that we are having to pay for goods and services out there. And it just tells you the need for us to all get our loins and work for change to give this country a new, fresh of life.
Very well. Let me speak to Major Kojo Ahinkra, who is a kidney patient. He's been undergoing dialysis, to understand from him how much of a difficulty this increase in fee would have been to him if indeed it was allowed to continue as in implementation. Major Ahinkra, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yes. Can you tell us how often, for example, you go for your dialysis session in a week and how long you've been doing this?
I've been doing it I've been on the machine for 8 years. 8 years. And I was supposed to do 3 times a week. But honestly speaking, the means is not there. So I do twice a week.
I see. So twice a week by 8 years. That should be a lot of money on your pocket. And I'm sure a lot of your reserves from your service to this nation as a military officer would have been going through that. Is there a way, or do you have any assistance from any source in doing this?
Honestly speaking, it has been few friends, colleagues, and then some benevolent people who normally comes in to assist in doing it. Like Honorable Sammy said, the First Sky Group has been there to support us. So that has been a little bit, that has pushing us a little bit in going through these 8 years.
I see. So obviously the increase, or were you part of those who were charged in the early stage or early hours of this implementation of the new fee? Were you a victim or were you part of that? Just quickly.
Yes, I'm part of that.
Oh, so you paid us?
No.
Okay.
When the new charge came, before the new charge came, the unit was closed down because the consumables were short. So the unit was closed around May 22nd or 21st or so this year. Since from that time, we've not gone there to have any dialysis because they didn't have the consumables. So when they were about to resume, that was just last week Monday, that was when we were told that the price has been increased from 380 to 765.42. But since that increment came, I have not been there to have any session. I tried going there, I think, Thursday to find out. But I was told, even though there was a press release that they should go back and take the 380, when I went to the unit, I was told that the 760 is still in the system. The system has not been changed to the old price, but the system is still having the 765.42. So I even asked that, so if they are not ready, why did they then come up with the press statement that they should go back and take the old price while the system has not been changed?
I see. So since May, the place was closed. Where were you doing it? How were you managing your dialysis sessions?
Like Honorable Sammy said, the other private ones are one. So I was going to the Band Hospital. I can't remember. That is where I've been going.
And then how is the fee there? Is it how is it in comparison to what Korle Bu charges?
The Band Hospital is taking 5.5 per session.
I see. 550 cedis per session.
Yes.
I see. Thank you so much. Just hang in there for us, please. Dr. Anaba, you are a former director of a medical facility, the Ridge Hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. Welcome to the program. Can you take us through the processes? I mean, if you want to increase the fees for some of your products or your services, what processes do you go through? How do you do that? What steps do you go through as management?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you, or good morning to you and your cherished viewers. I think as a hospital, if you want to increase fees or of any of the services, you have to look at all the inputs. One, the human cost, the equipment that would be involved in it that you need, the maintenance of it, electricity. In the case of dialysis, you have to look for water purification system, and then you have to look at other amenities, that cleaning and all other things. Then you use all that, and then you come out with the price. So for a dialysis, the most frequent thing that you need to procure is the consumables, which is the filters and the tubing that you need to, and you keep that one aside. Then you look at the machine itself and the lifespan, how many people can use it how many times we can use it before we change it. You factor that one in place. You look at the electricity consumption that would be incurred during the process. Then you put it. Then you now look at the human resource, how you are going to pay the people who are going to work there, and add something small, at least for some profit for the maintenance. So that is how we try to factor in or come about a price for a particular service in any hospital. Come to think of widows in private, that is what you do. But if you are in government, though you factor in the human cost, you have to know that government is paying all the staff that are working in government hospitals. So therefore, a hospital that is being taken care of by government is rather even charging more than private hospitals that are taking care of their staff, including all the other things. So I think in a nutshell, that is how we arrive at the cost of a service that we provide.
I see. So from all that you've told us, I'm drawing on your experience from the Ridge Hospital because it's a public institution. So after that, you tell your board takes it to the ministry takes it to parliament. How does it work?
Yes, when you do that and finish, if you are a Ghana Health Service facility, you have to take it to Ghana Health Service, to the Director General. He will forward it to the minister, and the minister will then forward it to Parliament. When we did in Reach, when we finished constructing Reach and we launched it, before we launched it, we had some pricing for all the services that we thought we were going to do, and that was given to the minister. We couldn't implement it. So there is no institution in Ghana, a government institution, that can go solo in introducing prices that has not been approved by Parliament or approved by the sector minister and forwarded to Parliament for approval. So that is the process. So you get the experts, team of experts who are going to be involved in the process, give you an idea, you get your accounts people to do the calculations, and then you say this service would cost this much. Then you forward it to the sector minister or the Ghana Health Service Director General if you're under Ghana Health Service.
I see. Thanks so much. Let me speak to Franklin Kujo now. Franklin, quite an elaborate process you go through before you have the implementation of new fees and charges. How come that a huge institution like Korle Bu obviously knows that, because they've been doing that in the past? How come all of a sudden this particular one failed to go through that test and got implemented, systems reconfigured to reflect the new charges, etc. Like Major Ahinkra said, that the 765 figure is still in the system. And yet we have the chief executive officer telling us that it has not been implemented or it's not been approved. I mean, just put all of that together for us. I don't know.
Well, it's a public institution yet again, and it's in the news, and I'm not entirely surprised. I must admit though that the price increase is quite outrageous. It's just too high. And I'm wondering what the process would have been to the extent that the CEO is now suggesting that at each point in time, or for all the levels that the pricing, the approval process had to go through, none of this was realized, even at the at the point of collection, right? I thought that was where these matters could have been quickly flagged. So frankly, I don't understand it either. I'm just surprised. But I think the substantive issue here is about the cost of Medicare in this country, which essentially for certain critical illness like the ones we are talking about, it's quite telling when it comes to the way we've managed it. I'm a stickler for private sector participation in some of these things, especially when should I call it, the fees or the licensing regime are such that the private sector can take up some of these very difficult, challenges in the health sector and then deal with it. But as it is, the policy, the public policy approach, basically public policy guiding healthcare in this country has always been politicized. And to the extent that this is one of them, it's not surprising at all. But certainly this pricing system was a bit of a fiasco. I don't know whether the CEO is to be believed or the PRO who initially came up with the fee structure, spoke to it as well, should be believed. Whatever it is, there's a disconnect within the chain of management, which I can understand happens everywhere. But until the uproar, I don't think we are going to hear this contested the testimonies as to what exactly led to the price hike. Whatever it is, we can also gloss over the fact that indeed our economy has already caused some of these challenges, these changes to occur price-wise. We have to deal with it. But holistically, I think the health sector needs a whole total 360-degree look.
Interesting. Haruna, I mean, people who need healthcare, dialysis, etc., some of these people really don't have, some have money, others don't. Increasing this without recourse to the processes, it's a bit harsh, illegal. But how did we get here? Is it a breakdown of other leadership? How did we get here?
Salam, I think this is very unfortunate. The health of the people must not be taken for granted at all. And I don't think that there's any justifiable reason for what has happened. First and foremost, I would want to commend the health minister for making sure that he got into this particular matter and called the management of Korle Bu to have a meeting and put a stop to what is currently ongoing. What we must all know is that health is important to everybody. Health doesn't know political parties. Health doesn't know age. Health doesn't know your gender and what have you. Some of these things, there are laid down procedures as to how such increments are being made. If that is so, I don't understand why all of a sudden a unit can just get up and then go ahead to implement a new fee. Not just implement, but even put it in the system that has not been approved. Then you don't ask yourself who checks the system, because we have different ways at which we measure quality, because we have quality assurance and we have quality. There are two: is quality assurance and one. So there should be somebody who is checking that. How did it come that these fees have been fixed even into the system when the reversal is caused and then they can still go and have access to the old prices? I don't wish anybody to be on this dialysis. I've had a brother who has been on the dialysis from Ababu. We've lost him some 1 month ago, and I feel very pity. I don't wish to have anybody on it, and those on it, I pray for them to get a very speedy recovery from it, because it's not something that we should be laughing over. It's something that we must take serious as Ghanaians. And I'm very happy that Honorable Suyini is recounting of what is happening even at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. Clearly you see that there's transportation cost from Tamale to from Accra to Tamale, but they still charge as low as 300 if that is true, and you are charging 380, you want to send it there. I think that there should be that consensus. Health Minister should look into that and see how costing of some of these things go into, because I know transportation is one of the factors when you are costing. So if you are here and the same company is here, you buy from that company here, what has changed? Is it that in terms of quality, there's quality difference between them? No. If that is so, I think that the health minister should take a step further to ensure that there is unanimity in terms of costing, because health is a concern to all of us, and we must all speak to making health a place where all of us will have it, because it can just happen. From here, we can get up and anything can happen, and you want to seek for healthcare. Let's look at it very carefully and then give good health to the citizens of Ghana.
Sweeney, is there anything Parliament can do beyond the looking at the fees and charges and passing it and all of that? In a situation like this, of course, the free market economy as well, but these are public institutions. Tamale Teaching Hospital, Korle Bu Teaching Hospital, etc., having various different rates of fees for the same thing. And you are just telling us that they buy their consumable from the same source. Tamale, for example, must factor in bigger cost of transportation, etc. I don't know if it's a human resource. I don't know what it is that is putting Korle Bu above them in terms of cost. And now they want to even double what they are taking. I don't know what Parliament can do about that. Is there a way Parliament can intervene and harmonize, the fees and make it more affordable so a lot more people in the same situation can have healthcare?
Well, yes, Parliament has a role to play, especially when it comes to streamlining the fees and making it uniform across board. Even if it is not uniform, you take into consideration the different services that are provided. For example, the price of, say, a shoe in a shop by the roadside that doesn't pay electricity because they don't use it, air condition, cannot be the same as the price of the same shoe in a boutique. I mean, so you can look at all of that in approving the fees and charges that are presented before you. But when the difference is that astronomical, then the ministry, for example, must be paying attention to the rates that are presented by their agencies for them to forward to Parliament. They must also be looking at the services that are provided by the agencies under them to see if the charges merit the services that they provide. And that's why Act 1080 actually gives the minister the power, even after the approval process, to still review, the services and the rates in the course of the year. But Salom, this discussion brings to focus the pricing regime in this country generally. I remember an article I wrote some time ago about the impact of even redenomination on pricing in this country. I mean, for example, it's so easy to increase an item from 1 cedis to 2 cedis. But in the past, it would have been very difficult to increase an item from 1,000 to 2,000. The mind has a way of convincing you that 1 cedi to 2 cedi is insignificant, but 1,000 to 2,000 is huge. And yet so that is the impact of redenomination, because we're told the value is the same. Because so 1 cedi to 2 cedi is the same as 1,000 to 2,000. But in the mind, you don't see the value to be the same. But so we need to look at that pricing regime that exists in this country, where people just wake up and then they decide that, okay, the supplier has increased the goods, and so there is no guiding principle, there's no range. For me, it's just the market that determines if the price is acceptable to them or not. But apart from the pricing regime, we also have to, face the fact that taxes and our government's desire to just sweep everything, I mean, squeeze water out of stone, it's also hurting some of these services and the prices that they have to charge for it. I've just told you that if you monitored the conversation on social media with regards to the dialysis, it went alongside charges at the ports. And that's why I brought that in, because initially the thinking was that the reagents, the consumables had increased. The prices of the consumables had increased because those importing it were now paying higher charges at the ports, which is true. Because if you look at the tariffs that people have to pay now when they are bringing in goods and services is just alarming. I mean, for example, I saw on social media people complaining about having to pay 7,800 thereabout to clear a Toyota Hiace, you know, in the beginning of the year, and now having to pay about 15,000 Ghana cedis to clear the same, vehicle. And so if the person is clearing the vehicle to sell in the open market, you can imagine how astronomical the price will also be on the open market. So beyond the pricing regime, which is a bit too unbridled, we also have the need of our government.
Major Hinkra, if you have an appeal to make to government and the powers that be, what would that appeal be in respect of the fees, in respect of the service itself, and everything you go through as a kidney dialysis patient?
Okay, thank you very much. For the government, in fact, the only thing I can say, like Honorable Sammy is saying, the import duty should be scrapped off all the medical consumables that comes to the country. Now, if the government comes to our aid at Korle Bu, there will be a lot of pressure on Korle Bu because everybody will be coming there. But if the import duty of the consumables are scrapped, those people, the private ones, who can bring their prices down. Because, my brother, honestly speaking, Korle Bu, the patients, we are normally about 250. That is the OPD cases. OPD. Those are the ward, you don't even know the number yet. And it's not only in Korle Bu. There are about 10 private dialysis centers in Accra. All of them have got their patients. So you can imagine the number. So if the government is able to scrap off the import duties on goods and consumables to bring the price down, it will be very good. And then secondly, the government should come to our aid. The point is, we cannot pay that 765.52. We can't pay. We don't have the money to pay. Me, the only that I don't want to mention it, I have people who have been supporting me. Even if he has not even got it, she has to squeeze her money and give it to me to go for dialysis. Please, we cannot pay this money.
I see.
We can't pay.
Very well.
We can't pay. So the government should scrap off the import duties on those consumables for us so that it can bring it very down to everybody. And we have a lot of people on the dialysis machine. That's what I'm saying. I can only speak at Korle Bu because that's where I go.
Very well.
250 people.
I see.
Apart from the taxes, I also just think that, I mean, we should begin a discussion to see if the National Health Insurance can take care of some of these.
That's already.
Yeah, you've worked there. You have that experience.
Dr. Anaba, what can we be doing? Health insurance or what? Health insurance already overburdened. 30 seconds, please.
About the health insurance?
Yeah, what can we do to help people going through the dialysis and all of that?
Well, me or the doctor?
No, Dr. Anaba.
Oh, thank you. I think we can do both. One, including in the health insurance, because we don't have so many people needing dialysis, but the need for it is just mandatory. If we can also take out the taxes for anything that is related to dialysis at the ports, it will help reduce the cost for both the government hospitals and the private institutions. So if the private sees that there is they don't have a lot of taxes to pay for dialysis, they can also reduce the price. As we are talking, even Nyaho is charging less than Korle Bu, which is a private. Tamale Teaching Hospital, just like Suhini said, is charging less than Korle Bu. So looking at the consumables, how much does a consumable cost? How many patients do we have in Ghana? We have the renal repository in Ghana. We can use that data. They have the data of all patients with renal failure. Use that data to estimate how many of them will need dialysis in a day. Let's get a very good policy in this country, at least to give back. The government is always in to take in, but doesn't want to give back.
Very well. Franklin, what can we do? Just briefly. Okay. All right. Franklin is gone off. Haruna, just a few seconds.
Yes, I think that in terms of the pricing, Honorable Suyini has mentioned, I think that Yes, pricing regime in this country is something that is very bad.
And the taxes too.
Pricing, I'm talking about pricing now. Pricing in this country is something that is very bad. It is attitude now. It is something that not only government can take care of. It involves everybody, a collective decision of all of us as to how we are going to deal with it. And when you look at, you talk about the port charges. Before, other people maybe might have been charging an illegal fees that they used to beat it down. Now they have digitalized the system. If the thing goes back to the normal, where you would have to pay what it is, then you see that it goes up. I agree with the fact that we need to work on the charges that is put on the medical consumable for us to go. But there is no justifiable reason for Korle Bu if Yahoo is charging less than that, Tamal is charging more than that. I don't think this could be the cause of port charges and all that.
Thank you so much.
So we also have to address the greed of our government.
Well, thank you so much. So we had,
how do you buy 18 phones for family?
What about if you use the health insurance?
Franklin Kujo, President of Major Kujo Ahinkra, kidney patient. Dr. Thomas Anaba, former medical director of the Range Hospital, for speaking to us on this segment. Thank you so much. My name is Selam Adonu. Catch you same time next week. Have a fruitful weekend.